Give me 1 second here, make sure it's all working and all that stuff. We also have an interview that just came out today with Morgpie. You may know Morgpie as the quote, Shuon Head says, whore. That apparently is trying to seduce children, according to the quartering, by being naked on stream. Turns out, surprise, surprise, she wasn't even naked. Yeah, I'm assuming they didn't even suspect that perhaps she could be wearing a crop top. Did you know that there are articles of clothing that women can wear? Men can wear them too, but men don't do it nearly enough in my assessment. But women can wear articles of clothing that will show off the boobas, the cleavage, and then, at the same time, they're not nude. It's amazing. It's like a magic trick. It's just like, whoa, it can give you the implication of nudity if you were to suddenly just take one little photo or screenshot without showing the entire photo, and that's exactly what she was doing on her streams and not breaking any of the TOS rules. But now, thanks to a lot of mostly men who are very, very upset that women are making money with their bodies on the Twitch, they're getting canceled, they're getting shut down, they're getting banned, they're getting blocked, and yeah, the whole thing is an absolute and utter shitfest. So good news, everyone. We have more coverage today of the Booba saga. It will continue because it's just utterly ridiculous, and we should be celebrating the boobies, all right? We should be celebrating the boobies. Boobies are fucking awesome. I don't understand how the same dudes all day can talk about, you know, how they want to red pill the world and get all the guys all the action and all this kind of shit while giving them the worst possible advice, while at the same time simultaneously vilifying boobies. Boobies are amazing. What the fuck is wrong with all of you? Ugh. So many people called it porn. I know. They called it porn, and it was literally a woman in a crop top. Like, oh my god, here we are. Yeah, we went from the hot tub meta to the crop top meta, and now that's what's happening. So here it goes. I see from the cleavage every YouTube thumbnail. Well, that's just to show people, because that's the actual, like, I can give you a preview already of what came out today. Hold on, gotta scroll through a whole bunch of baddies. But if we go to this article.
You know, my band, one of the reasons they listed was a lap dance. I'm the only one here, so I'm not really sure how I could have given anybody a lap dance. But that was one of the reasons they listed in the ban that I received. So I think, honestly, they are just cracking down on this new meta. And their toss is very open-ended. So they're not giving anyone, you know, nobody's breaking toss. Nobody is breaking the terms of service. Me standing here like this, it's just shoulders. And by the way, I am wearing a shirt. I do.
Oh my god! It's been revealed. We finally see, you know, we can see more now. More has been exposed, everybody. Look at this.
And pants.
But that's apparently too much. Too much. Yeah, that's enough for all of these big, confident, very confident men. Incredibly confident. You know, there's nothing that screams male security more than having dudes be like, well, look at this harlot, whore, how dare she? She's trying to sexualize and trying to get 12-year-olds to pay her money with the credit cards that every fucking 12-year-old who's not allowed even on Twitch, period, because Twitch doesn't allow anyone under the age of 13 to be on the platform. They're all trying to fucking seduce men who are powerless against full frontal nudity. It's fucking crop top, my dudes. Holy shit. Like, are you serious? What would you prefer that she was just wearing nothing but like a burlap sack, or would that be too much? Would that be too much flesh? What if she shows a shoulder, a knee? Heaven forbid, pray tell. I mean, I knew that this was going to accelerate in the way it did, because like, again, the same people, the same dudes who used to be mad at women just for having cleavage on stream, they used to call them booby streamers. They would be like, oh, those are fucking titty streamers, bro, all those fun titty streamers, no discernible talent. They just fucking go on, turn on a microphone, and because they have fucking massive boobs, then all of these fucking dudes are just gonna like drop in their streams and they become super popular. They have like 1,000 streamers, and guys have to work for it. Okay, guys have to work hard every single day, put in the hours, make content, be like, and it's like, have you actually watched the so-called titty streamers? Have you watched their content? Have you listened to what they say? Have you watched their shows? Because I don't think they just stand there or sit there the whole time being like, look at them, are you staring? Have you looked at them? Good, now give me money. Look at them and give me money. Good. Do it more. More money. Good job. Yes, you're doing a good job. Good men. Good. No. No, they're streaming like every other person. And yes, if you are attractive, if you show some cleavage, some people may be like, oh, I'm interested in this. And will they stay for the cleavage? How long can someone simply stare at cleavage? Did you know there's other places, I know this will shock some people, on the internet where you can see cleavage? You can even see more. You can see more than simply cleavage. I know, it's wild. The internet's a wild and scary place. But at the same time, this is enough now to get people banned.
Streams. So,
she was fully clothed, standing there, fully clothed. And so many dudes lost their minds. I mean, I hope every single one of them is deeply embarrassed for ever fucking trying to turn this into an outrage cycle, because it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, women can't even wear crop tops. It's like the implied nudity, the implication. It's like, well, I know what's going on beneath that cleavage. Beneath that cleavage is nipples, areolas, you know, and what's beneath there? The forbidden zone. No, we can't allow this. Too many children will be tempted, and they're only doing this because the market's saturated. You know, it's saturated, and you can't make money on OnlyFans, so you have to go to Twitch to do all of this. All right, now I'm gonna do a stream where I make fun of trans people for fucking 3 hours, and I'm gonna make fun of people who are neurodivergent. I'm gonna use every slur that is still permitted under TOS. It's gonna be hilarious. Then I'm gonna make fun of a whole bunch of minorities. That'll be hilarious too. Then I'm gonna really talk about how if you're gay, you're bad. That's gonna be hilarious too. I'm gonna be like, oh, this is so fucking gay, bro. That's so gay, bro. Oh, bro, this is so fucking gay. All totally fine. That's acceptable behavior. Even if I may have a younger audience that I don't, filter my streams for to be able to put like an 18+ thing or anything. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do all that. But this is the downfall of society. These harlots being fully dressed in streams, fully dressed. Fucking tube tops now. Tube tops. Yeah. What are we doing? This just feels like old-fashioned misogyny, just repackaged over and over and over. Same shit over. The women shouldn't be allowed to stream with their cleavage out because it tempts people. What? The women shouldn't be able to be in bikinis because that's hypersexualized. So can women wear bikinis in beaches? Are they doing that specifically to entice children? I don't understand what's going on here. Well, it's because they're in a hot tub, and when a guy subs, they write their name on their bodies, sometimes near the boobies. That's just not fair. Well, you could do it too, my dude. I mean, if you want to hit the gym, fucking 6 or 7 days a week, and then have a little pool of water behind you. I mean, you even have more power than women do on this platform. If you're a male or male presenting, you're allowed to show top frontal nudity if you want. You can just sit back, and then write everyone's like. If you wanted to do this, you can. You have the power to do this. I don't understand why are you upset if other people want to do the exact same thing. Like, goddamn. Anyways, I got to talk about some serious news, and then we'll talk about this.
Dateline 2023. The world is ravaged by a plague. You know what I'm talking about, the Rona. We're talking about the capitalistic death cult that values profits over the long-term health of humanity. What can be done to stop them and save the future of civilization? Find out only on Hard News.
Clean up your room.
Dad bods are awesome, mum bods are awesome, just bods are awesome, okay? Just all bodies. We just need to stop being such Puritans about like people exposing small. But like, am I doing like nudity if I do this? Have I shown too much? Is that like, hey, you get to see that I'm actually hairless? Yeah, guess what? That boom, there's a treat. Oh, Lance, he was fucking doing a titty stream. He showed too much skin on his fucking stream. We gotta get him fucking shut down. He's trying to entice. Amazing Fletch. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Very, very nice. And Reikerine, thank you too. As someone who looks perpetually tired, I'm actually very well rested. Ironically, in the midst of all this, I will be cranky though because I'm very, very upset with people fucking going after boobies. All right, I'm a huge boob advocate. I love boobies. Why do we want less boobies in the world or less people feeling comfortable being able to have boobies? I don't know. It really fucking sucks. It's brutal. I'm just gonna quickly do a recap of the news of the week by using Democracy Now because I have a lot of stuff to cover, so we gotta get through it fast.
It's funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report, I'm Amy Goodman.
Yeah, exactly.
In Gaza, witnesses say Israeli soldiers shot displaced people at point-blank range after they raided Shadia Abu Ghazala school in the northern Al-Fallujah area. According to Al Jazeera, newborn babies were reportedly among the victims. Heavy bombardment continues throughout the Gaza Strip.
So we're going to be talking about this. I'm probably going to have to put on a warning, so give me a second here. Let's see, social media bar off, second tier guest, content warning, murdered children. Okay, put that underneath here. Multiple reports have come out today, including one by Al Jazeera. It's also been co-reported by Democracy Now!, talking about how the IDF has apparently killed children. Children not through the bombing campaigns, of which they've already killed many children, but we're talking about soldiers killing children at point-blank range with guns. There might not be as much coverage of this or these stories as there will be, obviously, of the stories of the 40 beheaded babies, but it is obviously horrifying and deserves to be spoken about.
Including in Rafah and Khan Yunis, where homes, businesses, and schools were leveled in Israeli attacks. In Rafah, resident Mohammed Obeid joined rescue efforts Tuesday, searching for the rubble of a destroyed building that was attacked by Israeli rocket fire, killing at least 4 children.
Whoever is left will battle with hunger, a battle of thirst, a survival battle in every sense of the word. There's no electricity, no fuel, no water,
to mention mass
no medicine.
disease.
Even the hospitals are suffering in dire need. Even first aid kits are not present in the hospitals. The situation is disastrous in every sense of the word. We're not interested in what is said, a truce or no truce, because we're busy with the daily survival battle, with the water supply, either fit or unfit for drinking, electricity, medicine, fuel. The humanitarian situation is harder than the war with the rockets.
At the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Gaza City, a doctor says over 70 medical staff were taken by Israeli forces during a raid of the hospital earlier this week. Meanwhile, Save the Children announced a staffer and his family were killed by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza. Sama Aweda was 39 years old and the father of 4 young children aged 2 to 12 years old. This comes as Israeli military raids continue in Jenin in the occupied West Bank, killing at least 6 people Tuesday. In East Jerusalem, Israeli forces bulldozed a Palestinian residential building that housed 30 people. A Haaretz report about a Telegram channel said to be managed by the Israeli Defense Forces has provoked horror and comparisons to the Abu Ghraib military prison in Iraq. The channel, launched shortly after the start of the Israeli assault, is called 72 Virgins Uncensored and posts graphic videos and photos showing the killing and torture of Palestinians. The images are usually accompanied by racist text such as exterminating the roaches and joyful emojis. The UN General Assembly Tuesday voted overwhelmingly to call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. 153 UN members approved the resolution, 23 abstained, just 10, including the United States, voted no. Though not.
So Canada finally got on the right side of history. Canada voted in favor of the ceasefire. It was interesting to see a couple countries that normally would have just towed the line on the behalf of the United States decided to abstain, including Ukraine. Decided to abstain on the vote. This is, of course, a very contentious issue for Ukrainians, obviously, and Ukraine itself, which is currently looking to get a whole bunch more military funding from the United States. Still, with all that going down, this is further isolation of the U.S. and its policies in terms of how they are treating Palestinians.
Unbinding, the UN vote is another indication of the mounting isolation of the U.S. as it continues to support Israel's assault, which has killed at least 18,000 Palestinians.
Drum Wild, it's not Jewish people. Jewish people do have unbelievable amounts of empathy and bravery, I might add, because Jewish people in the United States are leading a lot of and have been at the forefront of a lot of the anti-war protests and movements. You have to separate the concept of saying that, the actions of a sovereign government, such as Israel, are the same as all Jewish people, because that is exactly what I would consider to be, anti-Semitism. You can criticize the actions of Israel because they are doing horrifying war crimes and atrocities. That has nothing to do with the totality of all Jewish people or the Jewish religion.
in a little over 2 months. Australia, which abstained from voting for the General Assembly ceasefire resolution in October, is one of the latest U.S. allies to split with Biden administration's position. This is Australia's Foreign Minister, Penny Wong.
Australia, alongside 152 other countries, was among the countries which voted in favour.
In New Zealand.
In doing so, we joined Canada,
The Kiwis.
New Zealand, Japan, France and India, and many other countries. And in doing so, we have said Israel must respect international humanitarian law.
Separately, President Biden delivered his sharpest criticism yet of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, saying at a donor event, the Israeli leader, quote, has to change and that Israel is losing international support, citing its indiscriminate bombing in Gaza. Indiscriminate bombardment is a war crime. Biden's meeting at the White House today with families of U.S. hostages abducted by Hamas on October 7th. For the first time ever, the UN Climate Summit ended with a global agreement to transition away from fossil fuels. The deal was announced earlier today in Dubai as negotiations went into overtime and hailed as historic by the COP28 president, the head of the UAE oil company, Sultan Al Jaber. While the agreement was welcomed as a step forward, climate activists and nations worst hit by the climate catastrophe warned it doesn't go nearly far enough. And Rasmussen.
But it's just all such a joke, you know? How do people watch this and not think that we live in the fucking circus?
Of the Alliance of Small Island States called out fellow delegates for passing the agreement, while representatives from the 39 states and her coalition were not in attendance, noted some of the deal's weaknesses.
We have come to the conclusion that the course correction that is needed has not been secured. We have made an incremental advancements over business as usual, when what we really needed is an exponential step change in our actions and support.
We'll go to Dubai for the latest on this new agreement that says phase down, not phase out fossil fuels. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ended his high-stakes day in Washington, D.C. Tuesday with little progress on securing additional war funding. President Biden vowed the U.S. would support Ukraine, quote, as long as we can, unquote, and urged Congress to pass his spending request of over $100 billion, which also includes funding for Israel, Taiwan, and further militarization of the U.S. border.
Congress needs to pass a supplemental funding for Ukraine before they break for the holiday recess, before they give Putin the greatest Christmas gift they could possibly give him.
House Speaker Mike Johnson has tied continued Ukraine aid to hardline border requests that have been rejected by Democrats. But reports have emerged the Biden administration is considering yielding to Republican demands in exchange for the funding. These include expanded immigration detention and deportations and a new border authority to expel migrants without due process. Meanwhile, House Republicans are expected to vote today on a resolution to formalize an impeachment inquiry into President Biden.
It's such a fucking disaster. Just like across the board, all of it. Just of the highest order. What a fucking disaster, you know? Like, everything. It's like the worst possible time for Biden to be doing all of this bullshit that is obviously alienating and pissing off, and rightly so, disgusting his base. And at the same time, Trump's on the other end being like, what is it, 91 criminal charges? Lol, that's fucking hilarious. Hey, I'm gonna be a dictator. I'm just gonna say it out loud. I'm gonna be a dictator. Yep, just for one day. Lol, keck, it's fucking hilarious, isn't it? The memes, they flow. It doesn't really matter though, does it? Because that other guy, well, he's fucking up so badly right now. There is a possibility that I could win this. So, doesn't matter if I say it out loud. I can say it out loud now. And everyone's going to be like, wow, I mean, it's funny, right? No, it's not. That's probably one of the most frightening prospects possible. Yeah. But you know what? Even if he is a dictator, it won't be for long, you know? I saw Russell Brand the other day. He made a joke. He was like, this is going to be really funny. Even if Donald Trump was a dictator, I mean, he's only got about 10 years left. So at worst, it'll be 10 years. And it's like, it's just, what a fucking disaster. What a disaster. It's like, again, the U.S. politics fucking projection right now, it's honestly abandon all hope, all ye who entered here.
In Russia, prominent dissident and Marxist theorist Boris Kagarlitsky has been released from jail. He was detained in July and accused of justifying terrorism for comments he made about the war in Ukraine. His arrest was met with
Former Obama staffers are calling out people wearing keffiyehs as terrorist scarves. That actually just happened the other day in the streets of Calgary. I can show you this wonderful use of public funding to keep the streets safe. Because if you think it only happens in the good old US of A, here's Canada being extra shitty. This is Calgary police harassing an unhoused person, questioning their winter scarf, which is not a keffiyeh, and saying if they were involved in protests for Palestine, or asking, rather. It's what millions and millions of dollars cost.
So what's with the scarf?
So what's with the scarf? It's fucking winter. It's fucking winter in Calgary, Canada. It gets really fucking cold in Calgary, Canada. That's what the scarf's about. So you're not part of any protest? Or anything like that? You just, the scarf is just on, cuz? And then right away you get the, I'm gonna have to ask you to get away from you. You can't be disturbing us right now.
Move along. You're blocking the sidewalk. People are getting you can go over there. Thank you. He has the right to privacy as well, okay? He is under arrest. Yeah. So if you interfere, you're going to be arrested as well.
Wait, hey, what's this right there? That kind of looks like the Thin Blue Line Canadian little badge that's been banned for use, but a lot of police officers in Calgary are still wearing it. What's this one here? Seems to be another one. I could be wrong. I mean, this is blurry footage. I'm just speculating, but this does look like you're once again putting those symbols that have been identified as being associated with far-right organizations.
For obstruction, okay? I'll let you know that now so you can move along.
And it sucks too, because like, what a waste of millions of dollars, you know? I see like footage of like that style of confrontation all the time, where it's like, so you're harassing a person who's on the street, and in this case you're doing it because of a scarf, because you think a scarf is somehow associated with a Palestinian protest. How is this keeping the world safer, you know? Like, genuinely. I don't understand why this needs millions of dollars.
For national condemnation. A court this week found him guilty and fined him the equivalent of $6,600, but allowed him to walk free. Prosecutors had been seeking a 5-year prison term. To see our interview with Boris Kagarlitsky in December of last year, go to democracynow.org. In Poland, Donald Tusk was sworn in today as the new prime minister, putting an end to 8 years of right-wing nationalist rule. In a speech Tuesday, Tusk, the former European Council president, expressed unwavering support for Ukraine against Russia's invasion and vowed to usher in smoother relations with the European Union.
Poland is and will be a key, strong, sovereign link of the North Atlantic Alliance. That Poland will be a loyal, stable ally to the United States, confident in its reasons, confident in its strength and importance. That Poland will regain the position of leader of the European Union.
Hours before lawmakers voted Tuesday to confirm Tusk and his government, an extreme right lawmaker used a fire extinguisher to put out the candles on the Polish parliament's Hanukkah menorah, sparking widespread outrage in Poland and beyond. India's Supreme Court upheld a 2019 move by the government revoking special status for Indian-administered Kashmir. The disputed Muslim-majority region previously enjoyed a certain level of autonomy, but the government of Hindu national...
Oh, it's same in Canada. You 100% have a right to film police officers. Please, don't think that he's telling you all of a sudden that, hey, by the way, you don't have a right to film the actions of police officers on the street in Canada. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms well protects you. You are well within your right to do so. That's just simply people not wanting to be filmed.
nationalist prime
Because, I mean, what is happening? They're harassing someone who's just living on the street for wearing a scarf. And yeah, that doesn't look great, especially if you're trying to add like, oh, is this because you're some kind of pro-Palestinian protester? Hey, complete the sentence to me. From the river to the...
Minister Narendra Modi scrapped Article 370 4 years ago in order to bring Jammu and Kashmir further under the central government's control. Pakistan categorically rejected the ruling from India. This is the caretaker Pakistani Foreign Minister Jalil Abbas Jilani.
The final disposition of Jammu and Kashmir is to be made in accordance with the relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions and in accordance with the aspirations of the Kashmiri people. India has no right to make unilateral decisions on the status of this disputed territory against the will of the Kashmiri people and Pakistan.
And the Arizona Supreme Court heard arguments Tuesday over whether a Civil War-era near-total abortion ban should be reinstated, overriding the current 15-week abortion ban. This is Democratic Attorney General Chris Mays.
This specific case is about the need to harmonize Arizona statutes to ensure that women aren't saddled with an 1864 law that was passed before Arizona was a state, before women had the right to vote, and while the Civil War was still raging.
After Roe v. Wade was overturned last year, some Arizona counties reverted to the 1864 law, which remained on the books but was not enforced since Roe passed in 1973. The so-called zombie ban does not make exceptions for rape or incest and also bars anyone from assisting a pregnant person in getting abortion care.
Zombie ban.
Meanwhile, the New Mexico Supreme Court is hearing arguments today over whether local governments can impose their own abortion bans, even as the procedure remains legal in New Mexico. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York.
Tesla is recalling more than 2 million of its vehicles, spanning all models, after investigation found its autopilot system was not sufficient to prevent driver misuse. Well, as it is right now, I think if you use the Tesla autopilot, it essentially you have to have your hands or your knees on the wheel to be able, or every so many minutes or something, to be able to make sure that you're still technically driving the car while it's being used. I listened to a really neat podcast talking about the technology behind Teslas and how they were able to beat the market so quickly to get on, to be one of the first cars with like autopilot and auto driving. And they actually cut corners by not using the same kind of technology that you see the Google ones doing. They have those 360-degree sensors, right, that allow them to have a 360-degree image that actually creates something known as depth, which is also very essential when you're trying to figure out what is and what is not near you or in proximity to you or approaching you. And the Tesla ones are using a multitude of cameras that are positioned around the car. Unfortunately, all of these cameras are still two-dimensional because that's just how cameras are. And so they are taking an image and they're using their AI to be able to process that 2D image and the multiple cameras taking it to be able to determine what is or what is not depth. But that can actually really fool a computer system, especially with a whole bunch of things that can happen. There's so many variables that you have to calculate for. If you've got a car that is being self-autopiloted and it's moving down the street, what if a bird flies in front of it? Is the bird the same as someone throwing a banana? What if someone throws a turtle shell? What if someone has, you know, like, you get where I'm going with this. It's what's actually causing a lot of problems with these vehicles because they are stopping or not stopping because some of the first procedure to be able to prevent, you know, collision or accidents is simply to stop. But that same problem can also create problems. If you are suddenly stopping suddenly and there's a car in front of you, you might smash into them. You could also create an accident simply by doing that. It's one of those things that makes it so much more complicated. Like a decade ago, a lot of us were told, especially people in the cab industry, they were deeply, deeply worried about this, that autopiloted cars were going to replace everything. It made sense, and it sounded amazing. So someone like me who I like going to snowboard on the mountains, for example, the idea of not having to drive a car the entire way there, you could do whatever you wanted, that sounds fucking amazing. Do you have to go visit your family? Are they an hour away? Well, you get to be in a car train because you don't have to drive it. The whole thing will just take you from point A to point B. That sounds lovely, but they've had so much trouble along the way because, again, the amount of calculations and variables necessary to make a car safe on the road is very, very difficult. And if you add to the fact that suddenly computers are going to be responsible for a lot more deaths, right? Like, whereas if a human being is responsible, there's a lot of things you could say. This was human error, this was judgment, this was intoxication, this was bad driving, this was someone speeding, this was someone doing that. In this case, it's going to be, well, where did the computer fuck up? Okay, so here it presumed a branch that was on the ground was actually some kind of a dog or something, maybe moving towards it at a rapid speed because the wind was blowing it at that point. It then swerved to try and avoid it. That swerve made the other car in front of it move. It wasn't predicting that other car to move in the way it did. It then ended up hitting a pedestrian or something like that. It's difficult. Oh, for fuck's sake, computers fly planes and helicopters. They do, but it's human beings who take the planes up and down off the ground, and then the computer autopilot sends that plane on a straight course in which it's not going to have a lot of collisions. That's a massive difference. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's very, very difficult, and that's one of the reasons why people who work in that field have been saying this is a goal that they've been working on, but it's been incredibly expensive and really, really difficult to achieve the results that they need to be able to get citywide approval, because these same things have to be approved by cities to be able to say, yes, you can have autopilot or self-driving cars in this region, even if we don't think or may think it is dangerous, right? But yeah, there's not things in the air to worry about colliding against. That's the big one. And there's a big difference, by the way, between, say, maintain, because we've had that technology in cars for a long time. That's what the cars, when you do highway driving and you click a button and it's like autopilot, what it's doing is essentially maintaining the same speed and the amount of gas going in, so the car moves at the exact amount that you have. So I set it to a 100, it's going to go on 100 for the next 2 hours. I don't have to touch anything, work with the gas pedals or anything, that unless I want to slow it down or speed it up. That's what planes are doing too. They've got a direction they have to go in, they can autopilot, and then they can sink into that. That's very different than maneuvering and avoiding collision with pedestrians, dogs, cats, birds, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about some pretty intense stuff. Israel's brutal assault on Gaza destroys more than schools, homes, hospitals as the death toll tops 18,000 people, majority of whom are currently 2/3 estimated to be women and children. In Gaza, witnesses say Israeli soldiers shot at displaced people at point-blank range after they raided the Shabdia Abu Ghazala school in northern Al-Fallujah area. According to Al Jazeera, newborn babies were reportedly amongst the victims. Heavy bombardment continues through the Gaza Strip, including Rafah and Khan Yunis, where homes, businesses, and schools were leveled in Israeli attacks. In Rafah, President Mohammed Abed joined rescue efforts Tuesday, searching the rubble of destroyed buildings that was attacked by Israeli rocket fire, killing at least 4 kids. He says, quote, "Whoever is left will battle with hunger, a battle of thirst, a survival battle in every sense of the word. There's no electricity, no fuel, no water, no medicine. Even the hospitals are suffering in dire need. Even first aid kits are not present in the hospitals. The situation is disastrous in every sense of the word. We are not interested in what is said, truce or no truce, because we are busy dealing with the daily survival battle, with the water supply, either fit or unfit for drinking, electricity, medicine, fuel. The humanitarian situation is harder than the war with the rockets." At the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Gaza City, a doctor said over 70 medical staff were taken by Israeli forces during the raid on the facility earlier this week. Meanwhile, Save the Children announced a staffer with his family were killed by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza. Sama Aweda, a 39-year-old and father of 4 young children, aged 2 to 12 years old. This comes as Israeli military raids continue in Jenin, the occupied West Bank, killing at least 6 people Tuesday. In East Jerusalem, Israeli forces bulldozed a Palestinian residential building that housed 30 people. Breaking. Exclusive video and images obtained by Al Jazeera show bodies piled up inside the Shadia Abu Ghazala school in Gaza. Witnesses say many sheltering inside were killed execution style by Israeli forces, including women, children, and babies. I'm not going to show you the footage for obvious reasons, but it is harrowing. And there's not the same level of outrage I've seen. I haven't seen this story so far been widely reported on a lot of the bigger news networks, especially the mainstream American ones. Hopefully that changes, because this is something that requires discussion. Jeet here says, the allegations here are of the highest seriousness. If you work for the Biden White House, the State Department, or for most congressional offices, you are implicated in the crimes that are being detailed here. And again, women, children, and babies were killed, execution style, by Israeli forces while they were sheltering inside a UN school. This won't get anywhere near the coverage of the 40 beheaded babies myth unless we force them to cover it. That includes the IDF using a Telegram channel to post congratulatory images of killed and abused Gazans. A Haaretz report about a Telegram channel that is said to be managed by the Israeli Defensive Forces has provoked horror in comparisons to the Abu Ghraib military prison in Iraq. The channel, launched shortly after the start of the Israeli assault, is called 72 Virgins Uncensored and posts graphic videos and photos showing the killing and torturing of Palestinians. The images are usually accompanied by racist text such as exterminating the roaches and joyful emojis. There's something else that Haaretz reported on that I wanted to pull up. Give me 1 second. It's 10 to 15% prisoners. For some reason, and I don't know why, I can't show. It always says error 403 forbidden when I try to open up the Haaretz webpage, and then I can open it up in incognito. I'm sure it's like a cache problem with my browser more than it is anything else. 16 hostages, Pentagon, U.S. Many Palestinian prisoners. Biden remains determined. Second hostage. It's not here. I took a screenshot of it yesterday, so I can pull that up. Give me 1 second. Yes, that's what it is. Because it's the only website that is doing that for me right now. I know it's on my end. I'm not saying this is a conspiracy. It's 100% me being a boober. Not that it's actually something really bad. So this came out on December 10th. So you've all seen, I'm sure at this point, the footage of and the screenshots of lots and lots of what are told to be Hamas prisoners, grown men being held, stripped down to their underwear. In the most dehumanizing and humiliating ways possible. And we're now seeing more and more of these photos. They're obviously deeply disturbing to look at. And further, to see headlines like this from, again, an Israeli newspaper. Israeli security officials estimate 10 to 15% of detained Palestinians in published footage are affiliated with Hamas. Of the hundreds of Palestinians detainees photographed and handcuffed in the Gaza Strip in recent days, about 10 to 15% are Hamas operatives or identified with the organization, according to the senior security officials who spoke with Haaretz on Sunday. The IDF reported. So this also is deeply, deeply disturbing, because I saw people trying to justify seeing those pictures as being like, well, those are Hamas fighters, so it makes sense because you need to strip them down to make sure they don't have weaponry on them and make sure they're not going to do anything. And I was like, okay, even if that was true, there are other ways to make sure someone isn't unarmed outside of having to strip them down to their underwear and then take photographs of them and then use those photographs in public social media accounts by, say, the Mossad, which is the one that posted that large photo of a very large group of people and then them shining a light on them that said surrender. That was from the official Mossad Twitter account. Even John Cusack made a tweet that was like, is this real? And so, yeah, I went to the official Twitter website, looked at it, and yes, it is 100% the official, blue check marked account of Mossad posting that picture. And if it turns out that apparently 10 to 15% of these individuals are Hamas fighters, that means we're seeing a large amount of civilians being dehumanized, being publicly humiliated, and being put on blast on social media to be seen for the eyes of the world. Again, war crimes, again, part of a large campaign to dehumanize Palestinians, and absolutely revolting of the highest level. To have heard, this is like the world post 9/11. It's just like 9/11 all over again. In a lot of ways, yeah, maybe you are right about a lot of similarities, and that, like, A, we've learned absolutely nothing. B, a terrorist attack is being used as a justification for a mass campaign of bombing, occupation, and devastation of a civilian population who is being dehumanized along the process, while localized racism just runs rampant, and in both directions. There is massive amounts of racism towards Jewish people, including Jewish people who are doing everything in their power to fight against this right now in both Canada and the United States. Members of organizations like If Not Now Org, Jewish Voices for Peace, they are being labeled as anti-Semitic organizations, as self-hating Jewish people, and all the fucking things that could be possibly said about them, while they're doing, again, showing the bravery to be doing consistent direct action protests against all of these fucking horrifying atrocities that you see on a regular basis. Sorry, I gotta check. I got a notification. Give me 1 second. Zachap, thank you very much for the Green Party 23 viewers. Can everyone go to twitch.tv/Zachap? And also amazing Fletch, thank you again for subscribing. Appreciate both of you. Thanks, Zachap. Internet crashed near the end of the stream, and I got burnt out early after fixing it. I know that feeling. That has happened to me many fucking times over and over again. So the Telegraph says, viral video shows Israeli troops, quote, behaving badly. Soldiers try to set fire to food and water supplies in Gaza in one clip, and others upload showing servicemen rummaging through private homes. Behaving badly? This makes this sound like a toddler having a tantrum or a bunch of lads having an OTT stag party. Setting fire to food and water supplies amidst the starving population lacking access to clean water is indicative of war crimes. Yes, absolutely. Hey, Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous, for both funding the show, for being awesome, and also gifting a tier 1 sub to Zachap. Welcome in. Appreciate you. So this is the photo I was speaking about earlier. This photo was posted by the official account of Mossad. I can't verify if this story is 100% true, but this is someone apparently IDing one of the people in the picture. And again, I am shocked my dear friend, colleague, and surgery mentor, Dr. Khalid Hamoda, is kidnapped by Israeli forces. Dr. Khalid is a peaceful, talented, and dedicated surgeon. He trained me on several surgical skills. He recently lost most of his family, including his wife and daughter. And this official picture, by the way, was posted by the Mossad account, and it said, all it said was surrender. Surrender at the very, very top, and this photo. And again, people looking towards this picture in disbelief. Like, again, Hollywood celebrity John Cusack didn't even know what to say about it when he saw it, and then posted a screenshot asking, "Is this real?" question mark, because didn't know whether or not this was. Yes, this is a real photo, and the tagline said surrender. And again, if it turns out that that report by Haaretz is accurate, and that report by Haaretz showed that it was, in fact, 10 to 15% of the people who have been photographed being detained, sometimes in their underwear, and sometimes in, again, very uncomfortable positions in mass fields and stuff like that, if only 10 to 15% of them are actual Hamas combatants, then this is being done to a vast majority of civilians. And the stats that you often hear when speaking about the conflict so far is that there's been over 18,000 people killed, 2/3 of whom are civilians, 2/3 of whom are women and children. You always hear that, women and children. And there's reason for that, obviously. It's because that's very, very quickly most likely going to make people recognize, and with purpose, rightly so, I think there's a purpose behind it, that at the end of the day, the majority of people who are being punished are simply non-combatants. This is a collective punishment on the civilian population, and now it's been upgraded into, forms of torture. And in that, though, I think something that gets lost a lot is men. Men, yes. Able-bodied men who are not members of Hamas, who are not combatants, who are not part of, trying to fight against, IDF forces or anything beyond that, are just as innocent as the women and children in this conflict. And if they are, like, in giant numbers being asked to strip down to their underwear and to have to perform humiliating, stances and positions and be held for long periods of time or detained in these states, again, we've learned absolutely nothing from 9/11. And I say we, I mean, I'm speaking about the West, because I'm, living in Canada. Justin Trudeau is funding this. All right. The Canadian government is funding this. We have sent millions and millions and millions of dollars to Israeli forces. The United States is funding this. They're actively sending weaponry there right now, bypassing Congress to be able to refill their tank supplies and shells. They are about to, try and pass another budget that will give an additional $11 billion towards a war effort that is currently engaging in massive amounts of war crimes. The list at this point, to go from the dropping of white phosphorus multiple times, the targeting of schools and the devastation, bombing and destruction of schools, the devastation and bombing and destruction of refugee camps, the devastation and bombing of hospitals, of clinics, of medical centers, the mass death of journalists, the mass death of UN refugee helpers, the vilification of surgeons, of doctors, of nurses, and now we're getting reports and stories of people and civilians and children being shot dead in schools. it's one of those things where today that there was a non-stop amount of horrifying atrocities that came out in a single day after a weekend where there was one single day in which, you know, over 700 people were killed. Anyone who is still remaining that is on the side of this, that says, well, this is still just self-defense, like, really has to be like shaken. Like, I don't know at what point you have to see everything that's happening and not recognize what's happening before your very eyes. You hear so many times people talk about history, and myself too, I've questioned this. How did things get so bad at different periods in history where, like, you know, things like genocide can take place? Or how is there just a collective dehumanization where everyone suddenly is just like, yeah, you know what, this is a righteous cause. Yeah, well, at the end of the day, all of these children in Canada, they are savages. They've been raised by savages. We have to take them from their mother's arms, and we need to forcibly place them into these schools where we're going to re-educate them, and we're basically going to make them do a lot of forced labor. They're going to get highly sexually abused, physically abused, and many of them are going to start telling their stories. Lots of them are going to die. There's going to be thousands of deaths, not only by tuberculosis, and again, that is in part due to the fact that they had terrible and horrifying living conditions, but a lot of them are going to be tortured. A lot of them are going to be sexually abused. A lot of them are going to have stories, and many of them are going to try to escape, because who wouldn't want to fucking escape a rape prison? And then all of a sudden they're going to have thousands and thousands of survivors who are going to tell their stories, not only to Canada, but to the world. And there's still going to be a large selection of people who are like, well, it's not as bad as you think. And they learned some useful skills, and we should be teaching those aspects. Like, you think, how do people get to that point? How does everyone ignore this stuff when it's happening before their very eyes? But we're living through that right now. Like, there's still people who have this kind of, like, you know, cognitive dissonance. They've managed to turn off that part of their mind where they're just like, well, this is still self-defense, and Hamas is a terrorist organization that effectively, left to their own devices, would try and destroy the entire planet. So this is in the security of the United States as well, because if we did let Hamas, if we allowed them to do whatever they were going to do, within a certain amount of time, they would try to destroy all of us. So ultimately, this has to be done, you know, and then we move on. And then we move on to the next story or the next cycle.
Israel said something that should make all of you shudder. It effectively said, I can kill any and every person in Gaza. The 2.3 million people in Gaza are either terrorists or terrorist sympathizers or human shields, and are therefore legitimate targets. Every person, according to Israel, falls into one of these three categories: a child, a journalist, a doctor, a UN staff, a newborn baby in an incubator. And so, according to Israel, it can kill them and then have the audacity to come to this room and tell the world with a straight face, we are acting in accordance with international law. The death of each of the over 11,350 people killed over the past month, be it children, journalists, UN staff, the sick, the elderly, according to Israel, was justified. Think about that for a moment and let it give you pause. Anyone espousing this warped logic has no shred of humanity, no sense of morality, and no knowledge of legality. But guess what? Your carpet explanation for carpet bombing will not fly. People are not fools. The people in this room are seasoned diplomats who are well-read, have a knowledge of history, and many of whom have seen your government make the same arguments during your 6 previous military aggressions on Gaza in the past 15 years. They have seen you resort to collective punishment, targeting of Palestinian children, journalists, medical staff, aid workers before. They have seen you forcibly transfer our communities, colonize our lands, demolish our homes.
Clickbait, what about the boobs? The boobs are coming, all right. We have important stuff to cover first. We're getting through some very important stories because honestly, I think more people need to be talking about how horrifying the war crimes of Israel have become and pay attention to that. At which point, we're going to have dessert, and dessert will come in the form of breasts. And we're going to have delicious breasts and boobs and all the boobs that you can enjoy. And there'll be boobs for everyone. Maybe even some moobs. You know, we might have some moobies, might have some boobies. We'll have it all. But it's going from the
and evict families from their own properties since the 7th of October and for the 75 years that preceded it.
That was Palestinian UN diplomat Nada Tarbush speaking November 17th, almost a month ago. At the time, the death toll in Gaza from Israel's assault was about 11,000. Today, it's over 18,600. Nada Tarbush joins us now in an exclusive interview from Geneva, where she serves as counselor to the permanent observer mission of the State of Palestine to the United Nations in Geneva. I'm wondering, Nada Tarbush, if you can start off by responding to the UNGA, the UN General Assembly's overwhelming call, even if it is symbolic, for a Gaza ceasefire in response to the U.S. vetoing in the UN Security Council on Friday the ceasefire call, at the same time that it looks like President Biden is intensifying his criticism of Netanyahu and the Israeli bombardment, criticizing indiscriminate bombing. If you can just take that on.
I also just want to add or preface that, like, it's actually kind of revolting that, like, that's just the I would say the milquetoast level of criticism that has finally been stated by Joe Biden at this point. But, like, did we have to get this far? Like, over 60 days of horrors, atrocities, over 18,000 people killed, children being crushed and suffocating under rubble, like the endless amount of journalists, doctors, medical care professionals, refugees, refugee workers, and refugee camps getting bombed, schools getting bombed, hospitals getting bombed, clinics getting bombed, journalist after journalist after journalist after journalist dying. And then finally, after doing fucking straight up, like, you know, he's been basically parodying a lot of propaganda, which has been giving people the ability and license to say, well, the president of the United States said it. Joe Biden just mentioned that apparently he saw, you know, he never believed that he would see footage and pictures of dead, beheaded babies. And then right away, the White House is like, Joe Biden did not, in fact, see pictures of dead, beheaded babies. And yeah, we're not entirely sure why he would say such a thing. Or you know, straight up saying like, oh, the numbers, I don't know if I really trust the numbers that are coming out right now, which is basically parodying that whole, like, well, those are Hamas numbers. You know, the Gaza Ministry of Health is the Hamas Ministry of Health. We prefer if you just call it that, because no one should ever trust those numbers, even though international organizations have been trusting them for a very, very long time. And as time goes on, it seems to be that they are turning out to be incredibly accurate. Now it's like, well, yeah, the indiscriminate bombings are kind of bad. They're kind of intense.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me, Amy. So with regard to the UNGA vote, what I'd like to first say is to put it in context for the audience. This resolution was brought to the General Assembly following the United States' veto on a resolution at the Security Council last Friday, which had called for an immediate ceasefire. And so states invoked tools that are available in the United Nations to, whenever the Security Council is deadlocked, to take the discussion to the General Assembly and on a matter of international peace and security. So this is what happened. And the vote was unsurprisingly, overwhelmingly for an immediate ceasefire.
Now, some interesting developments. Canada, Australia, and New Zealand band together. Canada votes for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The resolution was adopted, 153 to 23. Good, below bare minimum, way too fucking late. Interesting to find out that the old Commonwealth countries, your body count was apparently 18,000 plus. That's when you were like, okay, things have gotten a little too out of hand. We're going to stop basically towing the line, even though we didn't need to. According to insiders, there's no demand or ask on the behalf of Joe Biden for Justin Trudeau to be a cowardly, craven piece of shit. He just is one. He gets to be one on his own. So good job, Justin. And then he was asked the same day, by the way, by interviewers. They're like, so it seems like you've written a very strong statement alongside Australia and New Zealand, finally calling for a ceasefire. Would you like to elaborate on it? All he responded was, the statement speaks for itself. Thank you. And then it's like, would be kind of nice at this point, Justin, you know, being one of the world leaders and such, you having a very powerful voice on the world stage to perhaps use this opportunity that you have now after kind of signing this kind of like, oh yes, we all say that, you know, Israel has a right to defend itself, but things have gone too far statement that you did, which is how it was pretty much worded. You might want to get out now and be like, so you don't have to go see the wind blow. Like, you could actually be like, how about, yeah, ceasefire now. that you could kind of be a little bit more. I mean, it's just it's the most kind of fucking craven progressive politics where it's just like, yes, well, I've made a very powerful statement alongside other countries. Wasn't just me, okay? Australia, New Zealand, the other Commonwealths have been naughty too. Get mad at them, King. You know. Bernie Sanders releasing some good stuff finally. The U.S. must not provide $10 billion in military aid for Netanyahu's right-wing government to conduct their horrific war crimes against innocent Palestinians. Read my letter to President Biden asking him to stop funding the war and to support the UN efforts for humanitarian ceasefire. Dear President Biden, we all know the current war in the Middle East was begun by Hamas' brutal terrorist attack against Israel, which killed more than 1,200 innocent men, women, and children, and took more than 250 hostages. American citizens were amongst those killed and abducted by Hamas. We share the belief that Israel's right to defend itself and respond against the perpetrators of the October 7th attack. But while there's a moral case for military response against a brutal terrorist attack, it is clear that Netanyahu's government's current campaign is being conducted in a deeply immoral way. A just cause for war does not excuse atrocities in the conduct of that war. It's an occupation, Bernie. Come on. What are you saying? Israel has a right to go to war against Hamas. It does not have a right to go to war against innocent men, women, and children in Gaza. Yes, yeah. I'm glad you figured that one out. It's been happening for a while now, I just want to say, but okay. Israel's reliance on widespread and indiscriminate bombardment, including with massive explosive ordnance in densely populated urban areas, is unconscionable. True. Israel's military campaign will be remembered amongst the darkest chapters of our modern history. True. Consider the toll thus far. As of December 11th, within a population of 2.3 million people in Gaza, it is estimated that 18,000 people have been killed and more than 49,000 wounded since October 7th, 70% of whom are women and children. The United Nations, World Health Organizations, Human Rights Monitor, outside academic studies, the Israeli government itself finds these figures to be broadly reliable. The UN and the US officials believe, if anything, the count may be higher, with thousands of bodies trapped beneath the rubble. So far, 134 UN workers have been killed. Nearly 1.9 million people, more than 85% of the population, have been driven from their homes across Gaza. Despite sharing coordinates with Israeli forces, 40 UN facilities have been sustained direct hits, 61 UN installations have sustained collateral damage, and 11 bakeries have been destroyed in the bombardment. The UN reports that over 234,000 housing units have been damaged and more than 46,000 homes completely destroyed, amounting to 60% of the housing stock, a figure confirmed by academic analysis of satellite radar data. To put this in historical perspective, this means the destruction of Gaza is now equivalent to that of Dresden, where 2 years, by the way, when people say this, because I've not the first time I've heard it compared to the bombing of Dresden, this was over a campaign of 2 years, not 2 months. Where 2 years of bombing during World War II made the city's name synonymous with total destruction. Robert Papp, professor of political science at the University of Chicago, has documented that the Allied bombing of Dresden from 1943 to 1945 severely damaged 56% of its non-industrial buildings, half of its homes, and killed about 25,000 people. Meanwhile, the horrific firebombing of Japanese cities in 1945 destroyed 40% of the urban area, 66% of cities attacked, leaving 30% of Japan's population homeless. Gaza has passed these nightmarish thresholds in 2 months. And it's not the Nazis being bombed this time. It's not the Nazis. It's not the Empire. You know, it is again, majority civilian population, of whom half are children. This bombardment has made it impossible for the UN and other aid groups to provide basic necessities to 2.3 million people in Gaza. Some 1.3 million people are sheltering in 154 overcrowded UN facilities. The UN senior humanitarian official said the bombing means, quote, "We do not have humanitarian operations in southern Gaza that can be called by that name anymore," and that he fears a breakdown in society amid absolute desperation. And yeah, of fucking course. Like anyone right now who's like, well, apparently there's like some looting or criminal activity happening. They're being bombed to death and people don't have water to drink. Could you imagine being starving, dehydrated, shell-shocked, PTSD'd, like everything that is happening? Just the streets fucking reek of death. Apparently dogs are eating the bodies that just line the streets, say like the testimony of people who have managed to escape it. And then, yeah, I'm sure people are going to start doing whatever they can at a certain point to survive, because no one else is helping. There's no electricity, insufficient food, water, medicine, and fuel. 8 in 10 households in southern Gaza cannot secure adequate food, rising to 97% of the north. Ambulances can no longer rescue the injured for lack of fuel. The shortage of clean water and adequate hygiene and sanitation facilities increase the risk of disease, and that is not to mention the deep and lasting psychological damage being done. This constitutes just not a humanitarian cataclysm, but a mass atrocity, and is being done with bombs and equipment produced and provided by the United States and heavily subsidized by the American taxpayers. Tragically, we are complicit in this carnage. The Israeli military has made extensive use of the Mk-84 2,000-pound bombs, Mk-83 1,000-pound bombs, Mk-82 500-pound bombs, 155mm artillery in their campaigns. These munitions are manufactured in the good old US of A and supplied to Israel by the US. The Wall Street Journal reported the US has provided at least 15,000 bombs, 57,155mm artillery shells to Israel since October 7th, including 5,000 Mk-82 unguided 500-pound bombs, more than 5,400 Mk-84 2,000-pound bombs, thousands of smaller munitions and targeted kits. The WAPO reports that the first 6 weeks of October 7th, Israel dropped more than 22,000 American-supplied guided and unguided bombs in Gaza. This is why people are calling him Genocide Joe, all right? You don't get to say, well, this is the actions of Israel, and we simply want to stand with Israel to support, to defend itself. This is the mass slaughter of kids and the mass bombing of civilian infrastructure populations. And again, the killing of UN workers, of journalists, of doctors, of nurses, it's just an utter and complete atrocity. These munitions were provided with full knowledge that they would be used in Gaza, a densely populated urban village with large civilian presence. The entire Gaza Strip is the physical size of Las Vegas, but has more than 3 times the population. The Gaza City is more densely populated than New York City. American officials told Wall Street Journal that Israel used an American-provided bomb with a large payload in one of the deadliest strikes in the entire war, an attack that leveled an apartment block in Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp, killing more than 100 people in its effort to eliminate a Hamas leader, also reportedly killed in the strike. Amnesty International has documented specific cases that we all know. The U.S. weapons are being used to cause mass civilian casualties beyond the photographs and satellite evidence, as well as on-the-ground investigations and analysis of the bomb fragments. Amnesty has documented that the U.S.-made joint direct attack munitions were used in 2 deadly Israeli strikes homes in Gaza, which killed 43 civilians. Given the munitions provided since October 7th, on top of existing stockpiles, the $3.8 billion in military aid provided every year amounted to 15% of the Israeli defense budget. We must clearly acknowledge that Israel's indiscriminate bombing and widespread use of massive explosive ordnance in densely populated areas is being done with American bombs and money. The U.S. government has urged Israel to change its tactics, but we have done little to ask nicely while continuing to enable that campaign. The Netanyahu government's current military approach is immoral, it is in violation of international law, and the U.S. must end its complicity in those actions. Therefore, I ask you to make 2 critical changes in policy. First, while it is appropriate to support defensive systems that will protect Israeli civilians against incoming missile and rocket attacks, it would be irresponsible to provide an additional $10.1 billion in military aid beyond these defensive systems as contained in the proposal supplement foreign aid package. The money would be allowed to further continuation of Netanyahu's government's widespread indiscriminate bombardment. Therefore, I ask you to withdraw your support for the portion of the funding requested to Congress. Second, I ask you to support efforts of the United Nations to end the bloodshed, such as the recent resolution vetoed by the U.S. that would have demanded an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the unconditional release of all hostages, and full humanitarian access. This comes at the same time as the Biden administration on Tuesday indicated to congressional lawmakers that it would be willing to support a new border authority to expel migrants without asylum screenings, as well as a dramatic expansion of immigration detention and deportations to convince Republicans to back aid to Ukraine. 4 people familiar with the matter told CBS News. The White House informed the Senate Democrats that it would back those sweeping and hardline immigration policy changes as part of the negotiations over President Biden's emergency funding request, a roughly $100 billion package that includes military aid to Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine, as well as money to bolster border enforcement and hire additional immigration officials. For weeks, a small group of senators have been attempting to reach an immigration enforcement deal. Republicans have conditioned any further assistance to Ukraine to policy changes designed to reduce unprecedented levels of illegal crossing along the southern border. During a press conference at the White House on Tuesday, Mr. Biden said the team is working with Senate Democrats and Republicans to try and find a bipartisan compromise, both in terms of changes in policy and to provide resources we need to secure the border. And he has offered complete compromise already, adding to holding Ukraine funding hostage in an attempt to force through the extreme Republican partisan agenda on the border is not how it works. We need real solutions. In recent days, Mr. Biden administration has intensified its engagement with lawmakers. Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas started engaging with negotiators in the Senate this week. Specifically, the White House indicated it would support a new, far-reaching legal authority to allow U.S. border officials to summarily expel migrants without processing their asylum claims. This measure would effectively revive the Trump-era Title 42 pandemic order and allow officials to pause U.S. asylum law without a public health justification. The administration would also back a nationwide expansion of a process known as expedited removal that allows immigration officials to deport migrants without court hearings if they don't ask for asylum or they fail their initial asylum interviews. The program is currently being limited to the border region. Moreover, the White House would be willing to mandate the detention of certain migrants who are allowed into the country pending the adjudication of their claims. It's unclear how this provision would work since the U.S. government has never had the detention space to detain all migrants who cross into the country illegally. Administration officials and some Senate Democrats have also previously indicated a willingness to raise the initial screening standards for the so-called credible fear interviews that migrants have to pass in order to avoid being deported under expedited removal. In a statement, White House spokesperson Angelo Hernandez said the administration did not have determined policy positions in congressional negotiations. They haven't signed off on anything yet, but it is a delicate balancing act, they're saying. Horrifying, disgusting. It's just, yeah, I don't really know what to say at this point. Supporting a far-right authoritarian government currently committing genocide and a mass, ethnic cleansing campaign, and not only trying to fuel it, but provide the very bombs that are being used to drop on babies' faces, that is enough to alienate huge amounts of your voting bloc. And again, for a country that has decidedly stated publicly that they want Trump to get reelected, you do not have to do business as usual, especially not in the face of genocide. You could take a historic stance and say perhaps at this moment in history, the United States is not prepared to simply continue funding what Israel and the atrocities that they're committing against Palestinians without any kinds of checks and balances. You absolutely could take a stance in that regard, but you're not doing so. Instead, you are parroting and propagating a lot of the same propaganda that is being used to dehumanize and justify the war crimes and atrocities that are taking place. Meanwhile, trying to broker a deal in which it's like we want to give a whole bunch more money and funding to a whole bunch of more potential military conflicts in exchange for basically doing the exact same horrifying border policies as Donald Trump, thereby erasing a lot of the argument that there is a distinguishing and difference between Trump and Biden when it comes to border policy. Do you want Trump to win? Do you want Trump to win the next election? Is that it? Is it just like, let's see how much we can do a free fall in terms of our support, especially in key swing states from a lot of demographics that we need to win the next election? And then in that process, once Trump comes along, who's just openly saying right now that he's going to be a dictator, he's like, yeah, I'll be a dictator, only for a day. Wink, enjoy it. Yeah, what, 91, 92 criminal potential charges? Fuck it. Look at the other guy. Look how much he's fucking up. This entire thing it's like, again, it's a nightmare. It's such a fucking nightmare. It's a disaster. It's an absolute and complete disaster. How in the world is it getting to a point now where, again, a man openly stating that he wants to be a dictator on day one, but don't worry, just for one day, and has fucking so many criminal charges because he is a fucking criminal, an absolute criminal, and a racist. And yes, there's no question that Donald Trump would be supporting Israel in every single possible way right now. Most likely he'd be doing it while also being racist. That would be the big difference between the two in terms of policy. Would be like, yeah, we're doing it to get rid of all those cockroaches or something like that. He'd say something horrifying like that, and everyone would be like, whoa, Trump's a racist, this is terrible. I mean, one of the big differences then is I think maybe you would have less of the, like, I'm with him, fucking blue no matter who crowd potentially calling out the actions of the United States a lot more and a lot better, instead of just being like, well, you gotta understand Trump would be worse. And it's like, Biden's really fucking bad right now. Really fucking bad. Should we not be holding Biden accountable for the way that he is composing himself? Like, you could say, well, I mean, what is he to do, really? What options do we have? You could not be parroting a lot of the very lines that are being used to justify some of these horrifying war crimes. That could be one of them. You could not be just saying off the cuff, well, I can't believe that I saw, beheaded babies and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, but we don't actually have confirmation of that. The White House would like to officially state that Biden did not, in fact, see beheaded babies. And then it's like, well, they did bomb Al-Shifa Hospital, but apparently that was a Hamas command and control center. It's like, sir, we don't have confirmation of that yet. The most responsible thing you could possibly say or do right now is at this moment, we don't know. And why are you downplaying the amount of civilian casualties? What does that serve? That's also really fucked up, because in every instance it's like, well, the president of the United States has said it. Why are you bypassing Congress to make sure that you can send as much military, like tank shells, to Israel as possible right now, or continue to send them more and more bombs that we can see are directly complicit in war crimes, in genocide, in ethnic cleansing? Like, that's all really fucking bad. This is going to be part of your legacy forever, and it was already a very shit legacy, Like, honestly, it's such a disaster at this point. I genuinely hope that there is, like, some kind of surge in a third-party candidate, because, like, it's looking absolutely terrible. The White House signals it's open to hardline immigration policies to convince Republicans to back Ukraine aid. Fascism is a response to what Gramsci called an organic crisis in capitalism, not just a periodic downturn, but when serious cracks appear in nearly every edifice of capitalist society and capital can no longer convincingly claim to be ruling with universal interest. And yeah, it's not as if Trump's gonna be good on the other end. There's no illusions here.
Just on day one. Donald Trump says he's going to be a dictator. Donald Trump says he's going to be a dictator just on day one.
You are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border, and we're drilling.
Disaster.
After that, I'm not a dictator.
So he's tweaking the press who lacks brain, imagination, and a sense of humor. America's never had a dictatorship. George Washington had a shot, but spared us the agony of another revolution.
Lol, it's fucking hilarious. And also, we keep hearing about how locally, right now, there's a lot of problems with anti-Semitism. And that anti-Semitism is coming in the form of students at colleges and universities who are opposing apartheid. Some of them are using deeply, deeply horrifying hate speech in what they say. Some of them are using watermelon stickers. We all know what the watermelon actually symbolizes. Some of them are saying things like, from sea to shining sea. Oh, sorry, that's not it. That's just a really good old-timey American hymn. From the river to the sea. Well, sorry, not the one that was used by Israel, by the way. That one is not offensive or bad or anyway. It's if you're saying it in regards to Palestinian liberation, then of course it's deeply, deeply hateful. And the reason I'm being sarcastic right now and saying that this whole world is upside down and just fucking ridiculous, because there are incredibly racist, horrifying monsters who hate Jewish people, who are a danger to Jewish people, and they're not secretive about their beliefs. They're not speaking in code. There is no from the river to the sea. There is just straight up, we want to see Jews be executed. America First hate leader Nick Fuentes called on those suppressing Christianity to be absolutely annihilated in a recent live stream. Nick Fuentes, the hate leader who dined at Mar-a-Lago last year with Donald Trump, once again, and Kanye West, is calling for the genocide of perfidious Jews and other non-Christians. When we take power, he said on the December 8th live stream, they need to be given the death penalty straight up. Fuentes leads an American First movement of young white nationalists who call themselves groypers. One of the country's most insidious racists, Fuentes denies the Holocaust and has increasingly advocated for violent forms of Christian nationalism, as epitomized by his Friday remarks. These people who are suppressing the name of Christ and suppressing Christianity, he said, they must be absolutely annihilated. The dark call to violence was first highlighted by Right Wing Watch. Despite his overt hate speech, Fuentes has made inroads in Republican politics. Fuentes hosts an annual American First Political Action Conference, which holds his far-right counter-programming to the conventional CPAC. Fuentes' event has attracted congressional speakers, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, another anti-Semite, Paul Gosar, another anti-Semite. During the Rapper Ye anti-Semitic blitz of late 2022, Fuentes was a paid political advisor to West, accompanied by his November visit with Trump and former president at Palm Beach Estate. Fuentes was also on camera when West infamously professed his love for Hitler during the December 2022 interview with Alex Jones. This week, Jones was reinstated on the X platform by Elon Musk despite a massive legal judgment against him for lying about the Sandy Hook massacre. Fuentes groypers now want their hate leader to also regain access to a Twitter account. Fuentes was briefly reinstated after Musk bought Twitter, but was resuspended only days later for being Fuentes. They've launched a hashtag Free Nick hashtag, and one acolyte has tweeted that he's holding a hunger strike until Fuentes gets his account back. Please, for the love of God, go. I've never said this with more passion, but go touch grass. Get outside and go just hug a tree or anything. You know, you'll get more love from hugging a tree than you will ever get from fucking worshiping Nick Fuentes to the point of not wanting to consume food in his name. For now, Fuentes remains exiled from Musk's good graces, but the hate leader is still welcome in Texas politics. In October, Fuentes caught meeting with influential state Republican leaders in Fort Worth. In response to the controversy, the Texas GOP introduced a resolution this month reading apart, the Republican Party of Texas will have no association, however, whatsoever with any individual organization that is known to espouse anti-Semitism, pro-Nazi sympathies, or Holocaust denial. Whoopsie. So yeah, these are the anti-Semites you're looking for. These are people who hate Jewish people, and they don't just hate Jewish people. There's often not just a unique hate when it comes to the fucking white supremacists and the neo-Nazis. They hate fucking everyone that they want to exterminate from the face of the planet, including queers, LGBTQ plus folk, including black people, indigenous people, you name it. They most likely hate it because they only want the pure white supremacist Aryan race to rule, because that is what they believe is the superior race that is going to be able to successfully subjugate all other races races who are genetically inferior, because they are fucking insane. They're nonsense people, and honestly, they're gaining more power and traction because people aren't looking towards them as viable danger anymore. They're looking towards college students protesting apartheid. You got college students saying no more apartheid, please. Let's end an apartheid system, similar to other protests throughout human history trying to end apartheid. And no, those are apparently deeply anti-Semitic. Those people are deeply a danger. Those people need to be expelled from schools or have their speech silenced or be exposed as being hateful, anti-Jewish sentiment and all this kind of stuff. Again, it's all just fucking upside down to the benefit of the worst fucking human beings on the planet. Actual fucking racists and Nazis. The last thing I wanted to show all of you in this segment is a reading by Brian Cox. It's a poem, If I Must Die, by Rifat Al-Ra'ir. As you may know, he was a very vocal and powerful advocate, coming in many times in live broadcasts from Gaza, speaking about the horrifying atrocities that were being committed and done, and also often speaking out against the support and complicity of the West in everything that was happening in Gaza. I've seen a lot of people say, well, I mean, if this is apartheid, then why doesn't Gaza have a Nelson Mandela figure? Because he was bombed to death alongside a lot of his family. That would be one of my responses, because this was a person who was galvanizing people. This was a person who was getting international attention. This was a person who was getting deep respect and suddenly being heard, and people were suddenly looking towards him as almost like a heroic figure, a poet, an academic, yes, but a poet first and foremost, who was often speaking in just the most beautiful of ways to try and explain the absolute horrors and atrocities that were occurring to him. So this is one of his poems read by Brian Cox. He was a poet, professor, and activist who was killed by Israeli airstrikes alongside his brother, sister, and her 3 children.
If I Must Die, by Rifat Al-Ra'ir, November the 1st, 2023. If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale.
In defending itself, Israel must respect international humanitarian law.
Canada has finally officially backed a ceasefire. This vote at the UN. So I'm going to get to the clip and a couple more clips, including reactions to this support for a ceasefire. And I'm also going to discuss what led up to this as well, and debunk or just address some of the ridiculous pushback against this support for a ceasefire. So first off, I think this is really where things began to turn. This is back on November 2nd, when the third party in line, in case you're not Canadian, the NDP, came out to demand that the Prime Minister calls for a ceasefire. Now, this was because of the pressure that the NDP received. If you go on to see their letter here, they go on to say, over the past 3 weeks, more than 100,000 Canadians have written to us asking Canada to call for a ceasefire. So because of the amount of support for a ceasefire, because of the push from the public, the NDP eventually agreed to do the right thing. They should not have been pushed to this position. It's the humanitarian thing to do. It's the principled thing to do. So the NDP should have already had this position. That said, this shows you the kind of power that people can have when they come together to fight for human rights. So the NDP came out to support that. This was a few days later. I'll just play this in the window. I covered this in a video, but this was crazy.
We need to see a cease. We need to see a humanitarian pause so we can flow. We need to see ceasing of the levels of violence that we're seeing. We need to see civilians protected. We need to see a humanitarian pause.
came so close to calling for a ceasefire by accident. I think Trudeau knew it was the right thing to do, but because of his partnership, with the U.S. and Israel, it took Trudeau and the rest of the Liberals way too long to get to the right position. But that was on, again, this is the 4th. So a few days later, this poll came out. This is from Main Street Research, and it was commissioned by the National Council of Canadian Muslims, showing that 71% of Canadians support a ceasefire. And there's a few more polls on this, but there's actually not enough polling on this, surprisingly. I tried to look for more recent polling, and I couldn't find anything. But regardless, we saw mass protests in the streets all over Canada in support of a ceasefire. This is in Washington. I cover way too much American politics.
He's got America brain, this Canadian do. So now that Canada and Australia and New Zealand, by the way, have signed for calls for a ceasefire. It's a UN resolution. The U.S. resolution, the UN resolution. It does not mean ceasefire has been called. They had already previously called for a ceasefire, in which Canada did not vote in favor of it. That's pretty much what this does. Is it further isolates the U.S. and Israel, especially in the eyes of the world, and applies more pressure in that sense, because their policies are now being seen as being pretty much condemned by a lot of the world at this point, and to continue would be to continue with the rest of the world saying we don't approve. Whether or not that means that come the next cycle of funding, is Trudeau going to, as he has been in previous years, increase his military funding to Israel? That remains to be seen, and I think that will also depend a lot on if we can continue a lot of pressure. By we, I mean every single person who has been writing in using all of the links available. Our Commons is how you find it. If you Google Our Commons and then write your MPs, you can find your MPs to write to them. You can write to MPs who aren't even your MPs, by the way, and simply say that as a Canadian constituent, I'm disgusted by this. And if you go to ceasefiretoday.com in the United States, you can get a whole bunch of links there for how to write to your lawmakers and pressure your lawmakers. Continue to pressure them, by the way. They've said publicly they've never seen such a disconnect between both what people are, the voters are saying and what the policies and actions of politicians are. But yes, you do have to completely apply pressure. Does Canada have weapons manufacturers? We do. We have a lot of weapons manufacturers. Some of our biggest weapon manufacturing companies are actually in Quebec. All right, I'm going to move to other news. I know people want to talk about things that make them happy and things that make me happy too, like boobies and also assholes just getting fucking owned. I didn't know who this piece of shit was until obviously there was a complete right-wing cycle about how canceled he was, and this is weird. This is when, like, I'm noticing now we're getting pre-cancellations, because pre-cancellations, like, everyone needs to be canceled. Being canceled is the best thing that can possibly happen to your career now, apparently, on the right. So you get pre-cancellations now where people are like, oh, the cancel culture woke left is going all after a comedian again. And it's like, what? I didn't know who this piece of shit was. I had no fucking idea. I would never have watched that Netflix special. I wouldn't have even talked about him until Jordan Peterson did like an hour-and-a-half thing where she's like, oh God, your critics are actually just sneaky rapists and they're actually all just trying to, get in with the women folk because they can sneakily rape them much like the orangutan does and all this stuff. And you're like, what the fuck? Holy shit. So you don't even need to be canceled anymore. The right wing will just pretend you're canceled and you get the pre-cancellation cancellation. But this dude, massive misogynist piece of shit who thinks it's hilarious to make jokes about women getting physically abused and then be like, it's a joke. If you don't like it, don't pay attention, even though you're probably getting all this feed as part of the whole I've been canceled unfairly post Netflix special, by the way. You already have the Netflix. You're doing fine. You're going to be great. And it seems like even if you aren't going to be doing great in mainstream fucking commercial outlets, you'll be doing fine on the alternate outlets that provide, an entire ecosystem now for fucking accused pedophile rapists like Russell Brand to continue to do his own fucking misinterpret the news every single day to make people more and more scared of vaccines and shit like that. Anyways, he just got absolutely destroyed by a 6-year-old, and he's been trying to so the story goes, a couple people make some TikToks in which they say, your shit sucks. And that really, really made these snowflakes upset. Like that was too much. Right away, when he found out there was a TikToker who was like, yeah, I don't like your shit, he was like, oh, yeah, I was like, you're a fucking cuck, bro. And then Jordan Peterson, with his massive platform, both of them tried to cancel this random TikToker, because that's what you're doing, essentially. If you have a huge platform and you pick up some random TikToker who's just telling you your shit sucks, which, by the way, is their free speech. People are allowed to have opinions. People are allowed to say, your comedy fucking sucks. I don't think you're funny. I think you're a hack. You can say that. And guess what? You shouldn't be able to be canceling people for that. But nonetheless, they started calling the dude a sneaky rapist. And I'm pretty sure calling someone a sneaky rapist, just a random TikToker with a massive platform like Jordan Peterson has, that's going to have a lot more power to be able to cancel someone or get mobs of people to go after them than anything that is coming in the opposite direction. But anyways, I'm going to show you the video now. A 6-year-old absolutely destroyed this asshole on TikTok, got him so mad that he's now trying to, you know, battle back. But wait till they see this.
Stars, man. Just nothing to do with the stars, man. Just because Jupiter has a ring and you don't doesn't mean
Saturn has rings, and it has more also, and you're mean to girls.
Oh, I think that has to be one of the funniest fucking things. I love it. Just absolutely wrecked in like one sentence. So he fired back, yeah, and said that, well, you know what, 6-year-old, your mom's spent all her OnlyFans money on me, so checkmate. Yeah, which isn't that supposed to be super bad? Aren't you not supposed to do sexual jokes towards children? I was told that was like grooming and pedophilia in the opposite direction. Well, either way. One more time, though.
stars, man. Just because Jupiter has a ring and you don't doesn't mean
Saturn has rings, and it has more also, and you're mean to girls.
The bang.
Nothing to do with the stars, man. Just because.
All right, let's talk a little bit about misogyny, boobies. We continue our coverage of the booba, as it seems this is what people are deeply, deeply concerned of. A lot of really serious things happening in the world right now. A lot of problems, a lot of things to worry about. But one of the things that is effectively destroying society is one of the oldest things of all time. Breasts. Breastises. Yes, and the implied nudity that could come from said breastises. If you're unfamiliar with the woman on the screen right now, this is Morgpie. Morgpie is a streamer. And Morgpie is a streamer who has caught a lot of the attention of a lot of angry and insecure men online, because apparently she is standing fully naked, yes, in Twitch streams. And while fully naked in Twitch streams, she's greasing her body up, greasing up her breasts. And then when people subscribe to her, she does motions which indicate that perhaps her breasts are jiggling slightly off camera. You don't see them. She didn't actually violate anything in the Twitch TOS, but it made everyone very, very upset. A lot of people got very, very mad, and a lot of people started saying, look, I'm not against boobs. I'm not against the female form, okay? I myself have been known to enjoy the female form from time to time, but I think this is deeply inappropriate for children. And I think it is certainly, you know, there's this new meta. I don't know if you've heard about it, but there's this new meta going on where women apparently are getting away with tantalizing people, tantalizing mostly men who cannot control themselves, and they're giving up their hard-earned cash, their dollars, to these women, these harlots, these charlatans, these whores, said Shoe on Head, in order to see them jiggle their breasts. And the reason they're doing it, and this is the accusation, is because they know that other markets are saturated, that OnlyFans is saturated, for example.
Political Puppy gave
Political
Lucidry
Puppy.
1 subscription.
Political Poppy, thank you so much for giving Lucidry a tier 1. Deeply appreciate you. That's very, very kind. There's been a long history, and it's basically misogyny on Twitch, of basically women being targeted. There used to be a big discussion, usually led by people like Trainwrecks, for example, that women, they would call them titty streamers, cleavage streamers, booby streamers, that they were women who were streamers like every other dude, but all they were doing was showing off the fact that they had very ample cleavage, and they would wear these shirts, you know, that would suddenly go a little bit low, as you're perhaps seeing me do right here. Whew, no, don't want to get banned on Twitch. And by doing so, by showing off cleavage, they didn't actually have any discernible talent. Now, if you live in a mindset where you see women as being sex objects, or you think that their value comes in part due to their ability to be hot or attractive, then yeah, maybe this makes sense to you. Maybe you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the only reason why anyone would watch her. Oh, like, can't be anything else. Could not be the words that come out of her mouth. No, she doesn't have independent thoughts, you see. She is but a sex vessel for us to ogle and be manipulated and controlled by, and that's what she's trying to do. And that really, really sucks, because for a lot of women who are on the platform, who, like everyone else, want to be popular and want to have views and want to get lots of people watching them, obviously, if you are just sitting there talking the same way men do...
Those communists are amazing.
Political Poppy gave Hagbard_Selena tier 1 subscription.
Political Poppy, thanks for gifting a tier 1 sub to Hagbard Celine as well. The thing that really sucks is that obviously if you are sitting there like every other streamer and you're trying to have a stream and be successful, if people are suddenly accusing you of only being successful because you have tits, that's it. Like, yes, the only reason that any of those women were ever able to have any kind of success was because they have giant boobies, and that's why people watch them. I'm pretty sure that like the expiry date on people being able to suddenly just stare at cleavage for 2 hours, like it doesn't go on forever. Like you wouldn't have repeat viewers or people interested in what you have to say or the content you produce or anything if the only reason that they're there is just to be like. And I also, you know, as someone who's used the internet before, I am aware there are other places to see cleavage. There's other places to see full frontal nudity even, you know? It's another website that a lot of people seem to hate a lot, which is OnlyFans, which is like, oh yeah, we hate OnlyFans. It seems like the bar keeps changing. It's like, oh, okay, well, fine. I guess it is kind of sexist to simply accuse women of having no talent because they have cleavage and they show off their cleavage on the streams. Maybe that one's a little too far, but we can definitely go after the hot tub streams. What are the hot tub streams, you say? Well, the hot tub streams are basically people have found out this loophole that you're allowed to wear a bikini on Twitch streams if you're at the beach or in a pool or in a hot tub. And because people want to be able to have bikinis in their streams, they suddenly decided that if they put a kiddie pool in the background, that counts as a hot tub or a pool, and now it's justifiable for them to have a bikini on stream. There's never a discussion about the fact that if you are a man or male presenting, you're allowed to show completely your entire bare chest. You can show the nipples if you have man boobies or moobies, or you have a giant glistening pectoral chest that you've worked really hard on, or whatever the case may be. That's all totally fine. That's completely acceptable. You're allowed to do that. No one gets mad at this. Everyone is completely just like, oh, well, yeah, that's just a dude being a dude. He's just standing there. Well, then why is it that if he's just a dude being a dude, and it's totally fine for him to be topless, shirtless, if you will, that's not inherently trying to sexualize any single person who watches him? Now, there was for a while a handful of guys who were like, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Fuck it. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to do it hilariously. This is ironic, okay? So yeah, I'm going to have a hot tub stream. Here we go. I'm topless in my little kiddie pool in the background. I'll write your name anywhere you want, blah, 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 and stuff like that. And that was just funny. Like I saw people like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. That's funny. Look at the guys doing it now. It's kind of funny too. I've heard people sometimes try to compare, you know, who's the renowned beautiful streamer on Twitch? Hassan, right? I've seen some people say, well, yeah, Hassan is also very attractive, and he also has a lot of topless photos available on Instagram and other places on the internet, but he doesn't get the same kind of just, you know, degradation or the same kind of like, you know, well, no one ever listens to him, or everyone hates him just because all he does is just stand there topless, or he's just really hot, or he's just standing there beautiful. They usually hate him because of the things he says, the content of his character, right? It's like, oh, well, Hassan said America deserved 9/11. That's why he's the worst person ever. Oh, Hassan said that Putin wasn't going to invade Ukraine. That's why he's the worst person ever. Oh, Hassan said this. Oh, Hassan said that. Oh, look at this clip of Hassan saying this. Oh, here's Hassan, right? But it's never like, well, it's because Hassan's pretty, and that's the only reason why people watch him. But this seems to happen time and time again to women. And this latest version of this is basically, we have women streamers who are not, as it turns out, topless or naked. It turns out they're simply standing there. In this case, you're going to see a huge reveal. I don't want to give a spoiler warning, but we will show you what lies beneath, everybody. We're going to show you exactly what the camera did not allow you to see. We're going behind the lens here, and show you a little bit of Morgpie's interview. But once again, a lot of this is being propagated by the same people who will point towards, well, this is bad for kids. This is bad for kids on Twitch, because kids could see this. Did you not know that on Twitch kids can see things? They might just be going through maybe some video game channels, maybe some Roblox, some Minecraft, and some Let's Plays and some stuff like that, and then this could pop up. This could pop up, and then they could see this, and this could destroy everything about them. And the same people who are furious at women right now for, again, showing a partial amount of their bodies, not even nudity, not breasts, there's nothing here, but just that alone, those same people have multiple streams where they're engaged in vilifying LGBTQ plus people, where they drop the R slur every other fucking word, where they consistently say the worst things about marginalized communities, where they justify atrocities. All of that is completely fine. None of that is like, well, that's a danger though to kids. And a lot of the people also who freak out about this, who make videos about, you know, women and nudity, have you seen the quarterings thumbnails? Every other fucking thumbnail is like a woman's cleavage. Every other fucking, he played the actual video clip in his video of this woman, and yet he did not have a content filter on his channel. There's no content filter on the YouTube videos. There's no content filter on anything that he does, because he knows, like most people, once you start putting content filters, you don't get as many views. Not as many people can see you. Oh no, there's an age restriction, you know, blocking it. I happen to have an age restriction on my Twitch streams, so yes, there's a thing that pops up that says this is content for adults, and yes, that will prevent less people from seeing the stream, but is it intended for 18 plus stream? We're going to talk about 18 plus things, and we're also going to talk about you know, the very saga itself. Banned streamer Morgpie blames Twitch for viral topless meta in exclusive interview. Twitch has been inundated with a variety of different metas over the years, from hot tub streams to body painting and more. It's not unusual to see creators hop on certain trends that appear to skirt the site's guidelines on nudity and sexual content, while Twitch attempted to remedy the issue with hot tub streams by creating new entirely categories for such broadcasts. Another meta has emerged on the website that's sparking outrage across the platform. On December 8, Twitch streamer Morgpie went viral for seemingly streaming while topless, with her camera frame cutting off just above her décollage. 3 days later, Morgpie was finally banned. We spoke with the streamer about her viral broadcast, the ethics of the new topless meta, and why she thinks Twitch is to blame for the entire ordeal. Morgpie reveals she's actually been fully clothed in topless streams. To start, Morgpie has made sure to credit fellow streamer Asian Bunny for apparently starting the topless meta, saying that she had seen her broadcast and followed suit. It's worth noting that Asian Bunny was also banned from Twitch recently. She was getting crazy views with it, so I decided to try it myself, and I got the most views I've ever gotten doing it, Morgpie told us. So I think the numbers kind of talk on Twitch, and whatever gets the most views, that's within TOS. Morgpie assured us that she does in fact read the site's terms of service to make sure her content is strictly within Twitch guidelines, arguing that there's nothing for her to broadcast that is specifically violating them. I do read the TOS anytime I try to incorporate anything new into my streams, just to make sure I don't want to get banned. I did get banned, but I think Twitch right now is definitely banning a lot of girls because of this new meta. They kind of want to put a lid on it right now. And a lot of that has to do with, again, massive outrage. Huge amounts of outrage that is being done. You know, you're seeing so many other streamers and content producers, and again, the majority of the men, talking about this as if there's some kind of super unfair double standard, or that Twitch is completely degenerate and they're allowing all kinds of like fucked up content. When you see people like that, when a FaZe Clan member is on there talking about how like, you know, like, bro, can you fucking believe it, bro? Bro, holy fuck, look, hey, her tits are jiggling. What the fuck? What the fuck? This is okay? This is okay? These are the same motherfuckers who are dropping fucking transphobic bullshit and bile all the fucking time. Like one of the FaZe Clan members was the dude who's like, yeah, leave the kids alone. Then everyone was like, that's a weird thing to say when there were parents trying to stand up against the far right and the alt-right who are basically saying that they don't want LGBTQ kids to exist. Like, you should be saying that towards the far right fascists who are saying that kind of shit right now. That's really fucked up. Look, I don't hate anyone, okay? I just think that, like, you know, there's a time and a place for this shit, and like they shouldn't be learning about this kind of stuff in schools. And it's like, No one, I want to be clear on this, no one is teaching kids to be gay in school because you can't do that. There's no such thing as gay course, gay 101 or queer 205. There's no such thing as that. You can't sit kids down and be like, hey, do any of you want to be gay? Yeah, here's how you do it. That's not a thing. It's that gay kids exist, queer kids exist, and they're going to go to school like every other person, and that is totally, and I would say morally necessary to make them feel as safe as everyone else. That's the whole situation. You can spin it every way you want, but that's the situation. But still, those are the same people who are just beside themselves at the very concept that a woman may be on camera partially naked. That's obviously just disgusting. Nobody's breaking TOS, so let's listen.
You know, my ban, one of the reasons they listed was a lap dance. I'm the only one here, so I'm not really sure how I could have given anybody a lap dance. But that was one of the reasons they listed in the ban that I received. So I think, honestly, they are just cracking down on this new meta. And their toss is very open-ended. So they're not giving anyone, you know, nobody's breaking toss. Nobody is breaking the terms of service. Me standing here like this, it's just shoulders. And by the way, I am wearing a shirt. I do wear a shirt and pants.
Bro, shirt and pants, bro. Holy fuck. What is Twitch doing? This is fucked.
In all of the streams.
Wow, the great reveal. Everyone, look, this is what needed to be banned off Twitch because it's degenerate and destroying society. We did it. Twitch is a day safer. Go back to saying all your slurs. Go back to vilifying LGBTQ plus people. Go back to fucking making people who are members of marginalized communities feel unsafe on the platform because every time they start the streams, it fills with hate speech and other people can take any clip they say, take it out of contents and do full hate fucking segments on them. That's all totally cool. Everything's totally fine. But this is too far. This is the mass sexualization of children. It truly is.
So it's just the implied nudity that really freaks people out.
That's actually a really good way of putting it too. Implied nudity. I think honestly a big part of this is due to the outrage. She continued, because we are within TOS. Their TOS is very open-ended. Nobody is breaking the terms of service. Me standing here like this, it's just me with my shoulders. That's not all. Morgpie also revealed that she's actually fully clothed during her topless stream, showing us that she was wearing a tube top and jeans. It's just the implied nudity that really freaks people out, I guess. Morgpie told us that she was banned for Twitch for, quote, sexually suggestive conduct on December 11th, 3 days after her topless stream went viral online. However, she says that the reason Twitch gave her had nothing to do with the actual content in her broadcast. According to Morgpie, she was banned for engaging in lap dances, describing a sexual experience in graphic detail for a prolonged time, and making explicit gestures towards breasts, buttocks, or genitals on stream. While she can kind of see their thinking behind the last reason, Morgpie never gave a lap dance during her stream, nor described a sexual experience in graphic detail. And while she declined to let us in on the length of the ban, she did tell us that she has a big comeback planned, where she plans on returning to fitness content that will not be showing the topless streams for now. For Twitch's part, Morgpie claims the site needs to be far more specific in its terms of service if they want to avoid content like terrorists being streamed on the platform. Now, here's a super quick fix for all of this that we could basically state, okay? Because this is a rule that the people who hate this are not abiding by. Shoe1Head had for a very long time a YouTube video in which she rates the fuckability of multiple Pokemon characters. That video was not age restricted. And you could make an argument that the thumbnail, and then someone who might click on the video, could be someone who is under the age of 18, someone who's interested in Pokemon, and suddenly because she's a very popular channel, that channel is going to pop up in the top of the thing. Now, does Shoe1Head have a right to make videos and content about which Pokemon that she wants to fuck? Absolutely she does, 100%. But would it be super weird if people suddenly took that video of her ranking the fuckability of different Pokemon characters and suddenly say that she's doing this intentionally to try and seduce kids, to try and allure children to watch her channel, to try and get them sexualized and all this kind of stuff, when most likely, and I'm going to just state this in honestly in the most good faith way possible, I don't think that's the point of that content. I think the point of that content is comedy. She's doing that to be funny. It's going to be a funny segment. People are going to watch it. They're going to laugh. But if you look at the thumbnail, you could make the exact same implications that, hey, isn't this trying to tempt kids into looking at this kind of content? And if you're upset that people showing cleavage could potentially be seen by children, first, First, never take them to a beach. Make sure you avoid all and any beaches that kids could ever go to, because if they go to that, they may see not only women's breasts behind a bikini, but they might also see hundreds, if not thousands, of topless men. Yes, topless men. Some of them with very hard bodies, some of them greased up, and who knows, that could be done to sexualize kids or something of that nature. So make sure you avoid any and all beaches forever, because apparently that just in and of itself is just, you know, hyper-sexualized content. But if content specifically, such as, you know, farting ASMR streams or stuff like that, which has no place in being served to kids, is being put on the Twitch platform, well then yeah, use that kind of stuff with an adult filter. Very, very simple. Say, hey, by the way, if you want to have an 18+ stream, because there are adults who use Twitch, there you go. An end of story. It's not going to stop the weirdos, though. It's not going to stop weirdos from freaking out about this all the time, because apparently the problem here is less about, you know, could this be exposed to children, and more just like, it's just not fair. It's not fair. Why do women get to do this? You get to do it too, my dudes. You have more power to do it than the women do on this platform. If you're a male or male presenting, you have the power to go completely topless. You're not going to get banned for that. So you could do the exact same thing. You could have a topless stream showing way more skin. You can show it from the stomach up where you're just walking. You can apply grease to your body, and then you can see how many of the subs roll in. That's totally up to you. I understand, because I'm not someone who does that. Maybe it's going to be awkward at first, or maybe it's not something you want to do, but you have the power to do it before you go after the very people who are already doing that as some kind of whores, charlatans. How dare they? How they're fucking disgusting. Look at her. She's completely naked. And it's like, she actually wasn't. The reveal has been done. She was not naked. She's wearing a crop top. And so she was wearing a crop top, and the illusion of the crop top, which has been successfully, I guess, played upon all of you now, was enough to make you all think, well, she's definitely naked. She's naked, and look at that. Her tits are jiggling. Oh, disgusting. Disgusting, I say. Go to town. Go to town. If you think this is the one pathway to money, that people with no discernible talent are simply doing things like this, and again, it does take a lot of work to be able to maintain a body of a fitness variety, by the way. But yes, if that's what you think, go to town. You have the ability. Take off your shirts, and fill up a little fucking bathtub full of water behind yourself, and do all the same things. No one can stop you. I would say that a lot of the content on Twitch, which is not labeled for children, which is not 18+, which is not age restricted, is filled with fucking abhorrent shit that kids should not be listening to. People who are doing full-on variations of hate speech, whether it's going against like neurodivergent people, using the R slur as an insult on every other sentence, whether it's saying that everything that is bad is gay, and that's fucking hilarious, just be like, oh, it's so fucking gay, bro. Look at all these gays being gays, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't say F slur. That'll get me 2S, but I can certainly say fucking gays are gay, you know, and this is really fucking gay. Don't want to be gay, bro. Yeah, you know, all that shit. That's all fine. That's totally normal. That's totally fine. If you just want to fucking dehumanize marginalized communities all day, all of that. You can go to town, and then all of a sudden someone's walking around with their boobs out. Yeah, this is again the end of society. I think whether I'm doing it or some other girls are doing it, some guys are doing it, Twitch, they don't want to see sexual content. I think part of the TOS like this, certain sexually explicit content isn't allowed when people stream sex video and video games all the time, and people do have sexual discussions on the platform. It's constantly men and women. This is another big kind of gray area, because we also have a lot of video games that have full sex scenes in them, a lot of them. And because they're video games, you're allowed to stream that. That's the only nudity, full nudity, that is allowed on Twitch, right? You can do the customization slider on the cock or the vagina on fucking Cyberpunk when you start up the game, and they're not going to ban you for that action. If you're playing Cyberpunk 2077 as part of a stream, ideally you're going to be putting like a content filter on it, but there is going to be sex scenes. You can approach sex workers in that game, and you can have full sex scenes, and multiple sex workers, even non-binary sex workers. You can have sex scenes with them, and that is all part of the game. Now, is that a danger? Does that need to be banned? Is that going to get... Because I have an argument to be made about how adults like adult content, and there should be content available for adults, and that yes, there could be age restriction filters applied to a lot more people who do have adult content should be applying adult filters to their content, absolutely, to try and avoid younger people from dropping in. And outside of that I think is the extent of the responsibility that these women have. After that, all you're doing is really just getting really mad because women are making money off their sexuality in a society where we've told women, hey, by the way, part of your value comes from your sexuality. And then it's like, no, not like that. No. I just want you to wear more makeup, right? Isn't that the problem? Now, Caseytron posted some interesting data the other day as well. Let me see this. Because we always hear about how Twitch is dominated by 12-year-olds, and that's why this is really a danger. So let's look if Twitch is dominated by 12-year-olds. People keep saying that Twitch is largely made up of minors. It actually isn't. Just like they keep on acting like OF streams are being featured on the front page, they aren't. They also routinely leave out how they can't mark your streams as 18+. Age demographic of Twitch users, 18 to 24, 35%, 25 to 34, 32%, 35 to 44, 15%, 45 to 54, 8.62%, 55 to 64, 4.97%. These are the demographics of Twitch. The majority are not under 18. Take a look at the data detailing Twitch's age demographics in 2020. 18 to 24-year-olds, this group had the biggest share of Twitch overall user base in 2020, accounting for 41% of the platform's total population during this year. 25 to 34, this made up 32% of total Twitch's total user base in 2020. 35 to 44, this age accounts for 17%. 35 to 54, this age accounts for 7%. 55 to 64, this accounts for 3%. And another thing to add, it is increasingly ridiculous to state that it is a bunch of 13-year-olds who are paying for all of these streams. With what? Are they stealing their like their dad's credit card to subscribe to the booby streamers? Or are they just like, you know, begging their parents, please, mom, let me use your credit card, please? What for? Oh, don't worry, it's just to subscribe to the streamer. I'm pretty sure there's like, is there cases of that happening? Of course there could be. Absolutely. Again, there's millions of people on this platform. A couple people could steal credit cards, or a couple people could lie to their parents about what they're using their credit cards for, and hopefully the parents never checked that it was actually to subscribe, because it will say, you know, $5 subscribe to, this specific streamer, Morgpie, and hopefully they just never check that out or look into it or look up who that person is. But to be completely honest with you, this seems to be a phenomenon that once again is being blown out of proportion to state that a lot of children are being exposed to women who, again, are fully clothed. She's fully clothed in this. Now, everyone wants to keep kids safe, but I feel a lot more like this has to do with really just like hyper fucking misogyny and insecurity simultaneously. I think there are constantly people on this platform that abuse victims.
I think there are constantly people on the platform that abuse the very vague terms of service that Twitch has. I think whether I'm doing it, some other girls doing it, some guys are doing it. Like, you know, Twitch, they don't want sexual content. I think a part of the toss does list that certain like sexually explicit content isn't allowed, but people stream sex in video games all the time. And, you know, people do have sexual discussions on the platform constantly, men and women.
Oop, I'm muted. Jiu-Jitsu guy, thank you very much for the prime. Sorry, I was muted.
They allow sexual content, but at the same time they don't. And I think that with the vagueness of the toss, people are going to find loopholes regardless, because they do allow sexual content and sexual themes on the site.
She also addressed the backlash, both herself and countless, or in content that topless meta on social media, noted a large part of the argument against such streamers revolves around protecting kids on Twitch. I just wanted to say my streams are always labeled 18+. Wow. That's also a fucking... Did no one look this up? Did no one check this out? Did no one look into this? Like... Everyone who's begging for Twitch to do something about this, being like, oh, you have to stop this, it's for the kids, protect the kids, says the quartering. Meanwhile, again, the quartering, half of your thumbnails have fucking cleavage and titties in them, the same likes of which you would see on the stream. There's no age filters. There's no content moderation. There's no 18+ shit on there. Seems like just monstrous hypocrisy. You know, I'm taking every step I possibly can. I love Twitch as a platform. That's the reason I'm there, not somewhere else. Over 70% of Twitch's viewer base is over the age of 18. As we just pointed out, so for the people who are saying Twitch is predominantly underage teenage people, it's just not true. Even Twitch says that over 70% of their platform is used from people 18 to 34, so Twitch is not a place for kids. There is sexual content and inappropriate content rampant on the platform, aside from what women are doing on there, and I think people just need to be more consistent about that. Ultimately, Morgpie believes that it is the parents' responsibility to monitor their kids' online activity. Kids and teens will find ways to get 18+ content, so either Twitch needs to ban all mature content or make it more apparent that Twitch is for adults. And yes, if people are doing adult content on Twitch, put a content filter. filter. Put your 18 plus content filter on your content. That's simple. Yes. And there you have it. Outside of that, I mean, the responsibility, yes, would lie upon people to make sure that, you know, first off, if you do have young children, you shouldn't let them be using the internet lots in general. It's just been shown time and time again to be very damaging for kids, social media, all this kind of stuff. It's just bad for all of us, you know, let alone developing minds. And in addition to that, yeah, if kids are using the incredible crack the code powers of, you know, bypassing content filters on a bunch of, you know, inappropriate websites, including porn sites, then yes, put filters on your browsers, apply whatever you need to be able to, you know, strike out any of those kind of websites and stuff like that. Yeah, in terms of the content producers themselves, I mean, that's as far as you know, you can possibly ask of them to be able to keep their particular performance or content, you know, properly labeled. The other thing that I've also heard a lot is that this theory that perhaps individuals are using Twitch specifically because they don't make as much money on OnlyFans, and it's because of an extra market, and that's why they're doing it. You heard the Quartering say this, saying that like OnlyFans is saturated. That's why they do this, because they know they can't make any money on OnlyFans, and so they're just doing it to try and apply to kids who otherwise would be able to see their stuff, but now they can just do and show their pornography on Twitch, which, as we've just revealed, it was not pornography. In fact, she was fully clothed, but that doesn't seem to matter. But take it from Amaranth, who has said this: people who are saying that all of our money comes from exploiting the Twitch TOS. Hot tubs aren't the reason I'm wealthy, nor is poking holes in TOS. I was making $500 to $6,000 a month on OnlyFans before hot tubs were a thing, and probably in aggregate $750,000 a month, including other sources, by 2020, saving the majority of a windfall, investing it, and grinding. So making tons of fucking money off OnlyFans. Tons. Yeah. Again, this kind of fucking pokes holes in a lot of the theories that this entire thing is simply because you just make untold vast amounts of money by going on Twitch, where every single like insecure misogynist on the internet is going to spend hours upon hours making videos on you. Hours upon hours making fucking look at this, look at these titties, how dare she, how dare she once again, you know, try and manipulate us. I also want to speak to the fact that, like, I keep saying that, like, some of this has to do with insecurity, because, again, a lot of the same people who will have the most revolting, horrifying, not appropriate for children streams where they just spew bile the entire time also think that it's completely degenerate and totally a danger to kids if women are potentially showing cleavage or parts of their bodies, because that could entice people and all that kind of stuff. The purpose behind a lot of these people's streams is very clearly labeled. There is usually at the very bottom, you'll see a list of things that will say 18 plus hot tub stream, 18 plus bikini stream, 18 plus this stream. I, for a long time, never saw 18 plus gambling streams when the gambling was taking over on the platform. When every single fucking, not just the massive streamers like XQC and Trainwrecks who were doing massive gambling streams before they got called out for it and started, you know, saying, okay, fine, this is 18 plus, but lots and lots of smaller streamers who will accept a very small version of what is proposed to Trainwrecks, right? Like, hey, instead of giving you millions of dollars, we can offer you $1,000, and we'll give you $1,000 to do cryptocurrency gambling on your stream. It's totally fun. This is gaming. You're just gonna be playing video games, and then, you know, you can spend that $1,000 on you know, small hands and stuff like that. You might even win some money, who knows? And then we'll pay you an additional amount of money to be able to sponsor and do those kind of streams. Like, I've had those. I used to get those kind of emails back in the day. Hey, streamer, we noticed that, you know, you have a relatively popular stream. Would you like to accept a deal with what is, I forget what the name of the gambling site is, not crypto.com. Either way. But yeah, would you like to do a sponsored stream for this? You will get like $1,000 to utilize in your gambling streams, aka gaming streams, and then we'll also pay you a monthly dividend. Stake, thank you, stake. And then we'll also pay you a monthly dividend in addition to that. And then they just fucking blew up. People concentrated on Trainwrecks and they concentrated on XQC because obviously those are dudes with monstrously huge platforms, and again, you know, potentially thousands of kids who watch them who could potentially be indoctrinated into cryptocurrency gambling at a really young age. But there was so many other streams, none of whom were age restricted. None of them had 18 plus. All of them, if you looked at the slots and casino section, it was just fucking filled with all of these stake.com crypto gamblers, every single one of them doing the same thing on a smaller scale, where it's, yes, you have a parasocial relationship with this gaming streamer, and then all of a sudden you're watching your favorite streamer, and all of a sudden he or she is winning big, you know, they're just, all of a sudden they're winning some money, and it's like, ooh, that's a neat feeling, because I'm getting that secondhand feeling through the parasocial relationship of this. Maybe I should try that eventually. And it's like, well, to sign up on the site, you are going to need some kind of a credit card or cryptocurrency. Hopefully you can't find cryptocurrency in any other way. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously we don't want kids to start gambling or get addicted to gambling, because that could be very damaging or destructive to them. But it is going to get propagated and not going to get nearly as much coverage from the same people who are outraged by the titty, you know? And my dudes, I gotta say, again, this goes back to like, don't we all love tits? You know, doesn't everyone? You know, like, aren't titties awesome? When did we have to choose to start vilifying the titties? I mean, this stuff it's old timey. It's been going on generation after generation. Maybe it was different kinds of skin that was exposed. Sometimes it was like, oh, she's showing her shoulders. My God. Oh, an exposed knee. Oh, this harlot is trying to perhaps incite menfolk to do terrible things to her, and then stuff like that. And it's like, also, people can dress nice and go out, and it's not because they want you to molest them. It's because they want to look nice, and they want to go out, and they want to feel good. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. It's not them trying to manipulate you. I feel like so much of that, the red pill nonsense, so much of it is just about people trying to turn dudes into people who hate women. And surprise, surprise, it's not really going to get a lot of women to like them. But so much of it, like, if you've got this mind focus that is, hey, by the way, every single time you see a hot woman, just know that these are all bitches, and they're all trying to manipulate you, and like all of them just want money and power and control, and society is upside down, and they have all the power and control, and they always win in courtrooms, and they don't have to fight in the wars and all this stuff, and they get free drinks and clubs and stuff like that, and you just feel like a loser, don't you? Don't you just feel like a coomer, a loser who's just stuck at home in a basement masturbating to all of their photos all the time and paying money for their OnlyFans like a sad ass coomer that you are? Don't live like that anymore, bro. We got the answers. We're going to teach you how to make tons and tons of money through cryptocurrency, and then afterwards we're going to teach you how to get any woman you want simply by disrespecting all women as a totality, and it's totally going to work, bro. Definitely not a multi-level marketing scheme, but it is going to appeal to a lot of people. And when all that shit comes out, right, like, it's obviously deeply sad, it's deeply troubling, but it also, I think sometimes the left ignores the other side of the conversation, which is that it does suck to be a guy. It is really shitty sometimes. And there is nothing worse in the world than getting rejected. It feels like fucking shit. I can tell you, I have been rejected so many times by people that I thought I was in love with, and it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. And the shittier reality is that because men are raised in this world where they can't talk to other guys or their friends or even people online about any of this without being accused of being a woman or being gay or showing feelings or emotion, that you're stuck in this fucking rut in which you have to try and process and deal with all of these emotions on your own terms. And that is really fucking hard, and it makes it worse. And as your sense of self-worth is lowered and you feel worthless, you get trapped in this way that you don't know how to get out of it unless you find an answer in the worst corners of the internet, because no one else is willing to help you, lest they too be called gay or a woman or some other shit like that. So you have to suffer in silence, and suffering in silence as a guy is the hardest and saddest thing that I can imagine or explain to other people about the male experience, about what it is to grow up as a fucking, you know, cis male or any of that kind of shit. It really fucking sucks that in a lot of ways you don't have any kind of tool set or support group or resources to talk about any of this, and you feel alone and rejected and worthless. And when you feel alone and rejected and worthless, and the other side of the aisle might be saying things like, feminism, here's why things are bad, here's why this is bad, here's why these things are bad, you might reject all of those kind of things because at the time you're like, I already feel like complete shit, I feel worthless, and now you're telling me that I'm inherently bad or something because I'm a man, when that's not what they're saying, but that's how it's coming across to you, and you feel like utterly helpless in this situation. And then where do you go? the internet. You start looking for answers. You start finding things in some of the biggest channels and accounts that have dominated the sphere for so long are going to be giving you the worst possible advice. Stuff that is going to reinforce and play to a lot of the things that you already have programmed in you. A lot of the same shit that society has been pushing on you your entire lives, such as, hey, to be a man, you have to be a protector. You have to be strong. You have to be a defender. You have to be an earner. You have to be like fucking hard, solid, a warrior, because that is what the true alphas do. And that's how they overcome all the betas of the world. And that's how you end up winning and breaking free from the matrix. All that kind of stuff is already hard-coded in you, because that is what a patriarchal society is constantly telling all of us since the moment that we're kids, and then it's going to be reinforced by the gendered stereotypes of our parents. And by the time you get to high school, if you were a loser or are a loser like I was, then all this stuff starts to play all at once, and then that stuff is a lot easier to suddenly listen to and pick up, because it's like, oh, well, that's the kind of stuff that I've been thinking my entire life, or I've been told was right, but other people lied to me. They lied to me that apparently everyone has a shot, or everyone has a chance, or everyone could be an individual, or if you just believe in yourself that you can do anything. That's not true. I believed in myself. I fall in love with this girl and she thinks I'm a loser and doesn't want to hang out with me. And as they go down that rabbit hole, as they learn all of that kind of shit, as they get in that fucking world or space, it's going to turn them into the worst fucking people in the world. It's going to make them think a lie that there is some kind of conspiracy, or that there is something going on where women are controlling everything, where women are actually trying to manipulate you, where women are all evil, they're all bitches, they all control you with their incredible hot bodies that you just can't resist. And that's why we have to hate them, and hate them when they manipulate us, hate them when they show us their bodies and we're not allowed to have them, because they show us these incredible fucking titties and cleavage and all this kind of stuff, but I'm not allowed to have it. That makes me fucking mad. I'm fucking really, really desiring her, but she doesn't desire me. That makes me more angry and more furious and more fucking angry. And I'm being told all this shit by these assholes who keep telling me this is the way you're supposed to be. Have you been investing? Have you been spending thousands of dollars on my course? Are you investing in the cryptocurrency? Are you making mad cash? No, I'm not. I'm losing tons of money because it's really hard to make money this way. And everyone thinks I'm an incel or I'm some fucking freak or something. And then when I talk this way, the only other people who will listen to me are other people who are already indoctrinated into this shitty ass corner of the world. And then we get all kinds of fucked up shit happening. And there's an intersect between the violence that has been done, that is misogynistic violence, and the same violence that has been done by other
Jimmy
groups.
Sombrero gave Sparklecat a tier 1 subscription.
Thank you, Jimmy Sombrero, for gifting Sparklecat a tier 1 subscription and subscribing, even though I wasn't showing the adequate the adequate level of skin. Sam just debated and destroyed Dennis Prager a second time. Is he in character? Was he playing Rob, the whole Rob or whatever, something like that? Yeah. Oh, I had no idea. Sam's a good guy. Sam's a good guy who could teach you all that stuff. So, rant over, and I want to propose something, because here's a little extra piece. Here's where I think the left is falling short on these kind of conversations and meeting men and trying to guide young boys and make them become better men and deprogram a lot of this bullshit, okay? Is that there should be an acknowledgement, and there absolutely should, that men are suffering and men are having a hard time, and a lot of things are making life increasingly shittier for men. And that is just the truth. And to ignore that, or to try to say that is simply someone saying red pill shit or men's rights shit, that is ignoring a very, very big cry for help that is happening. Because life is getting shittier for everyone. For women too, for non-binary people, and for men, for everybody. Life is getting harder, life is getting more difficult, and there is a lot of ignoring of, hey, should we appeal to people who are definitely saying, hey, life sucks for dudes? And the answer is yes, it does. And a lot of this is in part due to the reinforcement of a lot of these bad negative stereotypes that makes it almost nearly impossible to live up to the expectations of what you're supposed to be as a man. When you hear people say that, like, there's a fucking, we're seeing the downfall of masculinity, the end of masculinity, we got all these femboys now, the fucking they, them armies, blah, 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 cat boys, all this kind of shit, you know, all these F slurs don't know what the fuck being a man is all about, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe the expectations of what is a man is actually destroying men and turning them into monsters. And a lot of reinforcement of what a man is supposed to be is actually really shitty and unhealthy for men. We can point that out. That's not a problem. Also, the whole industry that is built upon teaching people about love, romance, you know them, rom-coms, you'll love them, right? The Notebook, there's a good example. It's a really lovely story about a guy who really wants to get a girl. It's the girl of his dreams. He really, really wants to date her. So he threatens to kill himself unless she goes on a date with him. And I know it's just done in jest and fun, and it's Ryan Gosling, and he's so dreamy, and you just kind of get lost in his eyes and everything like that. So it's not actually that silly. And then it's really beautiful by the end. They're kissing in the rain and shit. So true love. But that's not good. It's not good to keep reinforcing this shit. It's not good that every fucking Disney love or romance is constantly about there is a one true love for you, one true love only, and if you do or do not find them, you will or will not have found true happiness. That really kind of gives everyone the idea that, holy shit, so I've fallen in love many times in my life. You know, I'm much older, but I've fallen many times in my life, including when I was very young. When I was very young, I was like in love with so many girls. I had the biggest crushes. I was like, you know, totally head over heels. What do I have to do? What's the trick, Disney? What do you do here? Do I write her poetry? Do I send her letters? Do I buy her or pick her flowers? Well, what is the secret Konami code to unlock love? And the absolute like fucking devastating reality of that is that no one has an obligation to like or love you. No one does. And the truth is, people are not going to like or love you. That's also just the reality. And guess what? You know why this isn't a bad thing? Why this shocking reality that actually is the complete opposite of what all these rom-coms say is true or what you should do? Is because you don't like everyone or love everyone. Even you, someone listening to this right now for the first time, there could be people in your life who you fucking hate. There could be people in your life who you can't stand. There could be people in your life who you don't want to have to be around. And that's valid and fine. And that goes both ways. So the truth is, there is not a 100% hard-coded destined love of your life that you have to do everything in your power to try and make them fall in love with you. But there is a lot of cool people that you're going to have a lot of fun with. And there's a lot of awesome people who are going to love you. And there's a lot better people, most likely, who you will find down the road, or you will find eventually, or you probably already have in your life and don't know about it, who could be way better than that same person that you fixated on for so long. Because you create a narrative, you create a fantasy in your head, you create this alternate world where they are the perfect human being. And then once you end up dating, if you ever do get that chance where you're like, oh, I ended up getting with the girl of my dreams, a lot of times you find out, I fucking hate her. Honestly, I like, yeah, she's really hot. I guess that was the thing that I was really focused on more than anything else. But as soon as we start having conversations post anything, we have nothing in common. What am I doing here? I thought this was the woman of my dreams. I like everything. I thought I had won the lottery. I had finally done it. I had finally, for the first time in my life, hooked up with what I thought was like my perfect love of my life. And then boom, surprise, surprise, they're a horrible person, or they're abusive, or they're really mean, or they're not interesting, or they're boring as fuck. And the same thing goes both ways, right? Like the same thing applies to women who are trying to find men or falling in love with men, or they really want to get with this one guy, or they feel like they've been friend zoned for so long, but if they just wait long and long enough, maybe this guy who is actually just, you know, really rugged and handsome, and he's going to turn out, yeah, he's a bad boy, but I can fix him kind of shit. Turns out, no, he's just an asshole. He just is and always will be. He's just a selfish piece of shit abuser, and that's all he is. And there is no fixing him. There's no changing him into one of the good ones. He just needs the right woman for that kind of shit. Nah, he needs therapy. He needs therapy, lots of it in generous amounts. And so we should have public systems or something like that. But anyways, that is what is the truth, and that's what should be reinforced. We should be empathetic, sympathetic. We should admit and accept the fact that yes, men and young teenage boys are suffering and having a hard time, and we should also let them know that it's perfectly fine and awesome for them to be able to express that or talk about it and feel safe doing that, and they should be able to do that with their friends without worrying about becoming the worst thing in the world, gay, because surprise, it's actually not the worst thing in the world. It's fucking awesome. Get some gay friends. Gay people are amazing. You'll go to the best parties in the world, and you'll probably meet a lot of amazing women along the line. Who knows? All this stuff is possible once you stop having hate in your heart consistently and trying to just get ahead by pushing other people down. That's the reality, because so much of what it is to be masculine or to be a man is to push other people down to try and prop yourself up. And it's bullshit. It makes everyone miserable. It makes everyone unhappy, creates fucking violent men, creates abusers, creates all this kind of shit, and creates a society of people who suddenly think that women's value again comes from how sexualized they are or how sexual they can be. The whole shit is a disaster. You know? That's it. And more titties. More titties. More pecs, more dong, all wonderful. And if you're not into it too, Also wonderful. You know, you can also just not want to look at titties at all. Totally fine. Yeah, my partner calls Dennis Villeneuve my boyfriend because I'm so obsessed with his work. Well, I mean, that makes two. I don't think Denis Villeneuve is attractive by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think his movies are absolutely spellbinding and mesmerizing and incredible pieces of work. Last piece on the manosphere, just so we can talk a little bit about these assholes. The manosphere personalities, including Andrew Tate, Sneeko, and John Zerka, are promoting abuse and extreme violence against women online. These influencers have defended beating women, mocked the abuse survivors, and called acceptance of abuse against women similar to customs in Saudi Arabia. These figures are part of a manosphere and online community of right-wing websites, bloggers, and influencers cultivating a worldview based on conservative and aggressive gender politics repackaged for the internet age. The group also often pushes extremism and anti-Semitism while blaming women for a myriad of societal woes and treating them as inferior sex. Some of these figures include topics that interest young men, like weightlifting, video games, and boxing, to draw viewers in before diving into extremist content and misogyny, creating a dangerous pipeline. Reporting shows how easily toxic rhetoric can infiltrate the minds of young audiences, even amongst users young as 11 years old. Parents in particular should be aware of the dangers these figures pose. Additionally, this misogynistic and extremist rhetoric does not live in a vacuum online. It can lead to real-world violence and harassment. Again, though, they are assholes. Call them out and expose all of their fucking disgusting hypocrisies and lies and insecurities, by the way. These are the three of the most deeply insecure public figures you can imagine. One of whom, by the way, when it comes to Andrew Tate, joyless. Joyless. I've never really encountered another person as famous, rich, and successful as he is that is also broadcasting how fucking joyless he is as a human. He talks about not enjoying sex. He talks about not wanting to eat food and how food is a boring task. What the fuck are you talking about? Those are two of the greatest things on earth. Those are the reasons for living. That is the great tapestry of the human experience, is being able to enjoy amazing consensual sex with different people and also enjoy a variety of foods from around the world. Like, do you just want to fucking sip on Soylent all day and just be like, it saves time, bro? To do what? To march around fucking smoking cigars? What is it you are doing with all the free time you're saving by not enjoying food? Food is so much fun. What is wrong with you? Like, holy shit. You all know about how shitty Andrew Tate is, pedophile rapist. You all know how shitty Sneeko is. You all know how shitty all these people are. But then you might wonder, like, how exactly is it that these figures and individuals, or the Fresh and Fits, or the John Zerkas of the world, how exactly do people even get pulled into any of that? And, like, in some ways, with Andrew Tate, it's an MLM scam. It was a very successful one, the way he was running and proliferating his content on TikTok. That certainly went a really long way, obviously, in terms of, hey, I'm selling courses, but you can make money off my courses if you upload videos of me, and if you upload videos of me and it gets a lot of people to sign up for my classes, YouTube will make money. So that incentivized a lot of people to do a whole bunch of video uploads of him. His stuff also is very, very successful in the algorithm, specifically because of the fact that he says things that a lot of people just won't say, like women are to blame for their own rape and stuff like that. Well, that's really fucking terrible incendiary content. That's going to suddenly do really well because a lot of people are like, holy shit, can't say this. And yes, teenage boys who don't get to hear this kind of stuff coming out of other people's mouths are suddenly going to be like, oh, this guy's fucking hilarious. Look at him. Oh, fucking this shit is hilarious, bro. Look at all the shit he's saying. This is fucking so much fun. Again, so much of this has to do with, like, from the ground on up, there has to be a difference in the way that we talk about what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a proud masculine man. There's nothing wrong with wanting to love the idea of masculinity and all these kind of things, but not in the way that it currently is being sold. You know, we have a faulty product. We have a faulty product that doesn't work. It should be recalled. And any other situation where this was happening, where we were selling the world and society writ large on a single concept, if it was this defective and fucking up all the time and producing, violence and hatred towards people who don't deserve it, we would recall it. And that's what we should be doing with the idea of masculinity. Not to get rid of the idea of masculine, or not even to stop loving or worshiping masculine forms or hard bodies or incredibly, chiseled men with only the slightest amount of chest hair who enjoy to butter each other up and then do some Greco-Roman wrestling. All that's fine. That's fine, beautiful, and sometimes an absolute pleasure to watch. I'm just saying, in addition to all of that, we can also start changing the very way that we speak about what it is to be a man. What it is to be a man. What about empathy? What about apathy? What about sharing? What about being vulnerable and feeling vulnerable? That's the one you never do as a dude. Never feel vulnerable or expose yourself or put yourself in a vulnerable situation. You'll see guys just shut down. Like they can't speak. Like they have trouble talking. I know, because it's happened to me firsthand years ago when I was first trying to like do that kind of stuff. It's just like you look at the ground and you don't talk. You know, and that's not just men, by the way. That's people. That just so we're clear on this. But like, there should be a much more welcoming atmosphere, and that should make you way more of a man. You know, no, I don't respect a man who can open pickle jars. After all, I could buy a device to do such things, and guess what? I can open a pickle jar or two myself. I'm not here to respect men who have such incredible grip strength that they're able to fucking open pickle jars and lift boxes off shelves. Like, oh, congratulations! Yes, you are a forklift. You have achieved forklift. Forklift unlocked. You are the same thing as a forklift. What a manly fucking masculine macho dude you are. But it takes a lot more bravery to be vulnerable or to share things or to put yourself in a situation where, yeah, it is a little risky, it is a little scary, but we'll all be so much healthier for it at the end of the day. And also keep making fun of these dudes for being the insecure weirdos they are. Like a wild fucking Has appeared. He's still doing this shit. He's still doing streams with Zerka. I can't play him. He's banned. Well, maybe I'll beanie him. I'm slightly curious now. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Reina, can you see me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, listen closely. I'm only saying this once. Give me pussy or I'm taking it.
Jesus Christ. I knew Zerko was like a right-wing chud. I didn't know he was just full-on doing like, hey, let's do some fucking rape streams. If you're wondering right now, Haz is not smiling or anything. He's simply sitting there staring at the wall. Yeah, massive yikes. Oh, never mind. Haz is laughing. He found that funny. All the men in the clip are laughing. That's fucking hilarious. Yeah. Good stuff. Just keep reinforcing that bullshit. Hopefully we'll have no negative effects. Man, do I have time? It's 12:55. I could probably manage a mini stream. Okay, hold on. Let's change to Jimmy Dore. I don't know if you know this about Jimmy Dore. He is a massive conspiracy theorist, 9/11 truther, you name it, Seth for his conspiracy theory. He loves them all. Very few conspiracies he doesn't love. Also, one of the people who believes that the virus, sorry, not the virus, well, he does believe that the novel coronavirus was made in a lab. It was bioengineered in order to control the population. And then he's also been spreading a lot of conspiracy theories about the vaccines actually being bad for you and not being effective and all this kind of shit. That's basically been part and parcel for his content. So we used to call him the Alex Jones of the left, and now he's just Alex Jones. Because like, it's one thing to make one video that's like this. How did he know? How did he know? But then another one, and then another one. in like the past couple days, he has 3 Alex Jones videos, all about Alex Jones being right. And I mean, those are peppered in between Tucker Carlson's awesome and you know, the QAnon shaman actually is a hero kind of shit. But yeah, they're all so excited.
So look at this. Tucker interviewed Alex Jones the other day. By the way, got him reinstated back on. We should do that next.
Right.
Got him reinstated back on Twitter's, and I'm not calling it X.
Yeah, I'm dead naming it. I'm calling it Twitter.
That's right. We're dead naming it.
It's really funny they came up with that joke, and they're the first ones to think of it. That was clever. Yeah, that's the first time on the internet I've heard that. Neat.
Kurt says, I'm going so far as I'm not even saying Malcolm X anymore.
Alex Jones is a better comedian than him. It's true. Yeah, I mean, Alex Jones is a disgusting, homophobic, transphobic, white supremacist who says some of the worst things in the world. But you got to give him credit where Jimmy has none, is that he is actually naturally just by himself funny, because he is just like a silly, funny white supremacist guy who's they're coming for us, we have to take the Thorazine out of the water.
That's right.
The great Malcolm Twitter.
The great Malcolm Twitter.
Oh, he's so entertaining. Yeah, I can't take that away from him.
So here, but he played this clip during that interview. Look at all the predictions that Alex Jones actually got right.
Of September, that the new policy's being written, you will all have to wear masks again, and so will airport employees.
It's happening. Mask mandates are officially back.
We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun, or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s.
This group and its leader, a person named Osama bin Laden.
He's the boogeyman they need. We're looking at a giant...
How the hell?
How did he do that? It's just like, it's incredible. It's like if you took a clip of someone and they speak for, say, 4 hours a day, and then you cut and pasted parts that you think line up with the actually what happened. They feel like a savant, don't they? Like a Nostradamus. It's like almost like a trick. Because again, if you were to take any one of Alex Jones' broadcasts, you would see the hundreds, if not thousands, of false statements, outright lies, things he got wrong, things he doesn't even understand, concepts that he wants to talk about that are based in truth, like, oh, did you know about a false flag attack? Yeah, apparently the United States, in their precursor to be able to invade Vietnam, they stated they were actually attacked, by a Vietnamese sub, but that actually didn't happen, because what actually happened is the sub was actually filled with a whole bunch of brain chemicals that turns the people gay. It's like, you got like a quarter of that right, I guess. You're close, but like, yeah, all conspiracy theorists love talking about actual false flag attacks or all actual historical events, because it props up their pseudo-history and then revisionist history and then complete conspiracy theories that they like to spew. Alex Jones wasn't getting any of this information firsthand, by the way. Again, listen to Knowledge Fights. You'll find a long list of all the people that Alex Jones was basically plagiarizing from, taking a lot of their cues. Osama bin Laden at that point had been a well-known ex-asset, an ex-friend of the CIA, someone who was deeply connected to his father, Mohammed bin Laden at the time, who was not part of the Saudi royal family, but had connections with the Saudi royal family. He came from a very wealthy background, had a lot of training and education as a result of that, and then he became increasingly alienated with the United States as he saw Saudi Arabia continue to partner with the United States, and a further military presence in Saudi Arabia is what further radicalized him and eventually led him to create Al-Qaeda. Again, very interesting, fascinating stuff you would think that like a conspiracy theorist would want to learn about, and was well known at that point to be, again, an enemy of the United States as a result of multiple actions that Al-Qaeda had taken. That's not like in any way that he predicted 9/11, you know?
Did he?
I mean, project what terrorists are likely to do.
So he predicted 9/11. He predicted.
No, he didn't.
Did Russia's invasion of Donbass and
no, he didn't.
Ukraine.
Do you know what Alex Jones was saying? Because right now they love saying that Alex Jones predicted that Putin was going to invade Ukraine. He was saying that a war with China was about to break out at the time. Again, listen to Knowledge Fights. They break it down piece by piece. No, Alex Jones did not predict that Russia was eventually going to invade the Donbass and Ukraine. Amongst the many things he did say or speculate, like many people did, that the official story by the United States was not true, or that the intelligence coming out of the United States was not true, as I myself thought, because of all the lies the U.S. had been feeding us for so long. Why in the world would the U.S. intelligence suddenly be revealing things that turned out to be completely accurate? That was just us playing on the fact that they'd lied so much to get into multiple wars or fund wars or being proxy wars that a lot of people were very dubious about what the U.S. intelligence was releasing at the time. I turned out to be completely wrong on that. It turned out Russia did eventually invade Ukraine. And so, hey, guess what? I can say that out loud. I was wrong. The U.S. intelligence was right in this case. I should have, not said that, or I should have, at a certain point, or I have, in fact, accepted that. Alex Jones has not, because he doesn't do that. He doesn't sit there and say, all right, everybody, now your favorite segment, Alex Jones was wrong. This, of course, is a very long segment. It usually takes about anywhere from 48 to 72 hours to do a 4-hour show, but we have to do it in the interest of being, transparent. So here we go. None of that. That does not exist. And guess what? We didn't actually go to a nuclear war with China. And I'm talking about we as in the West. So that just never happened. So Alex Jones was actually wrong again.
And
okay, so this one video, I suppose, is just him going through why Alex Jones was totally right.
Own pipeline. And you
but I've never had misinformation in anything I've ever shared on Facebook. They're the ones who are the liars. They're the ones who are funded by billionaire class and Bill Gates. And so that's the beauty of what you're doing, is there won't be someone like Bill Gates controlling what you say, or Jeff Bezos, or any other handful, or Klaus Schwab, or
Why are you ending billionaires tomorrow? How does this work? Simply by giving you money, people are going to get the unadulterated truth. I want everyone to know you could actually get it for free from Gray Zone, because a lot of you just parrot Gray Zone conspiracy theories.
the WEF controlling you. So you'll be, and that's what scares them, right? So aren't you afraid that they're going to come for you?
Of course they are. But if you just take 3 steps back, it's sort of remarkable.
Oh shit, he's actually interviewing Tucker Carlson. I thought he was just playing video clips from him. No, he's here. All right. My oh my, how we've come so far. If you're curious, by the way, why is it that people like Jimmy Dore, you know, leftist that he is, or Max Blumenthal, leftist that he is, or all of these people who seem to be in the whole like clown shoes, bozo left, are suddenly aligning very hardly with the far right, and also trying to downplay them doing so, saying as in like, oh, well, hey, Glenn Greenwald said that Tucker Carlson's a socialist, so he must be. Jimmy Dore interviewed Tucker Carlson, and he says he just wants to go after the elites. Isn't that what the left wants too? Isn't that what Marx talked about? Yeah, and stop the globalists or something. There's a specter of globalism haunting Europe. That's what he wrote about, right? That's what the Communist Manifesto is about. If you listen to the recent episode of It Could Happen Here, they go into the history of Max Blumenthal and how he actually, post-Occupy movement, used to be a very hard line, hey, I'm against the war criminal Bashir al-Assad and what he's doing to his own population and stuff. And then shortly afterwards, especially after having several meetings, and there's conspiracies that those meetings were some of the meetings that actually directly fund the Gray Zone. We don't know how the Gray Zone is funded because we don't have transparency in that regard, which is also kind of weird for a quote-unquote leftist organization. And we've seen the amount of conspiracy theories that the Gray Zone spreads and gets wrong. They get some things right, as anyone who, again, publishes lots of articles will, but then they also spread tons and tons of things, like trying to do apologia for, again, the war crimes of Bashir al-Assad and what he does. But a lot of the stuff on this end, at the end, there's this question. Why is it that so much of the post-Occupy left are now trying to align themselves so readily with the far right? And they propose this, that your audience, if you are just a leftist or if you're trying to appeal to people who are leftists, is limited. There's a limited amount of reach and growth that you can get to. There are only so many leftists in the West who are willing to want to consume purely leftist content, or content only focused on, again, talking about material conditions, talking about oppression, class oppression, all that kind of stuff. So you do need to branch out. And so there's 2 different directions you can branch out into. You can try branching out more towards liberals, and then in order to appeal to liberals or liberalism or neoliberalism, you will begin to speak oftentimes about, say, some of the positive things that Democrats can do, or why there are certain instances in which, yes, we have to align or defend what NATO is doing, because they are trying, in this case uniquely, I know there's been bad ones, but this case uniquely, they're actually trying to do a good thing here, so maybe we'll do that. But you can't do that if a couple things are in place. One, if you hate the same social issues as the right does, then you have to align with them. If it deeply disturbs you to have to try and learn anything about the science behind, say, trans people or homosexuals or anything like that, if they're icky to you, or if that's gross, well, then most likely you're a social conservative who doesn't want to have to deal with them at all. You don't have to deal with this whole, like, what, science is showing us that there are multiple sexes. Sex is on a spectrum. What the fuck are you talking about? No, it's not. This is gross. I don't like this. I want to keep women's sports for women, and I care so much about women's sports now. I'm going to talk about that. So that's the reason why a lot of those people, they start appealing to expand their audiences to the right. And they can't do so all the way. They have to do the Russell Brand of it all, you know, and kind of take a step back a bit and be like, you know, while I don't completely agree with you, and I certainly don't like Trump, I do, agree with a lot of what you say. And I think that there's a very important discussion to be had here. There's a difference between saying, hey, by the way, ultimately, if you're trying to appeal to a lot of people, or you're trying to advocate for something, that this applies regardless if you are a Republican or Democrat, a liberal or conservative, a libertarian or an ANPRIM. What I'm trying to say to you right now is that all human beings deserve to have equal access to healthcare. That's what I'm talking about. So that kind of messaging, that's different than saying, hey, by the way, maybe Alex Jones isn't as bad as everyone thinks. A lot of people use words like white supremacist and stuff like that, or racist, but that's just like, that's what liberals say. Liberals say that when they just want to get rid of what the ideas of the people are truly saying, because the ideas are what scare them, so they shut down conversation, they shut down free speech, they shut down the discourse, and instead all they do is they call names, they throw names out, and that's what they do, and that's why they're really evil. And if you've got a person like Jimmy Dore, his entire career is just shitting on Democrats. Doesn't matter who. If you have the Democratic fucking badge on your shoulder, you're fundamentally a fascist or evil or Hitler or something like that. Doesn't matter if you happen to have a lifelong career of much better, like, you know, public advocacy, say like Bernie Sanders, then Jimmy Dore can only dream. Yes, he was doing that as an independent, but now he's doing it as a Democrat. But even then, Bernie Sanders is a fascist warmonger who's actually part of the deep, machine and all that kind of stuff. The truth will only come to you in the form of podcasting from Jimmy Dore. Or if it's Glenn Greenwald, it'll only come to you in the form of Glenn Greenwald. I am the only truth teller. I'm the only one willing to tell you like it is. And at the end of the day, Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones are not as bad as everyone's told you. Those are lies by the deep state and the globalists, so you got to believe that. And if you truly want the truth unfiltered every single day, subscribe to me. I'm the only one, all right? Don't think about the fact that my channels are actually overseen by Alphabet and that at any given day they could shut me down. Because guess what? I'll be on Rumble tomorrow. I'll go on Rumble and I'll keep telling you the truth as long as you keep subscribing. And I'm the only person willing to tell it to you. Me and every other person who has the exact same fucking bit right now, you know? Is there a difference between the truth that you get on Russell Brand, Jimmy Dore, Tucker Carlson, or are they all just fucking feeding each other in this endless cycle right now?
Wound up in a country where billionaires control everything. I mean, I was naive. I assumed, billionaires would be sort of off in their own private world, literally on their private boats, with their harems, beating their servants with their canes or whatever, doing whatever they do. But I never imagined a world where they would determine what I was allowed to think about the medicine I take. I mean, that's a level of control enabled only by technology. It's a new thing that has no precedent in human history. I mean, the feudal lord did not exercise that kind of power. I mean, famously, he could sleep with your wife on your wedding night or whatever, but he could not tell you.
What? To feudalism we must return, because then you didn't have that evil vaccine. The vaccines didn't even exist. We didn't even have a germ theory of disease. Things were better back then, simpler. Back then, all you had to really do is if you had resources and money and you were part of the aristocracy, well, then you could have access to one of the many doctors who could apply leeches to your cock, and then they'd drain all the blood from it, and that would get rid of all the ghosts that are inside you. Better time, better life. Get rid of those ghosts.
What to think, and didn't try. And so this is like a new thing, and everyone should be mad about it. No one's mad about it, weirdly. We lionize these people, but we should be afraid. And yeah, of course they're going to come for me. I mean, but I've been through that before. The best I can do is just the best I can do, I guess.
Everyone's mad about it. No one likes the way that fucking social media manipulates all of us, and that we're all so hopelessly addicted. We can't stop it, but we can complain about it on the very same social medias that fucking ruin our lives. It's just none of you want to apply any kind of critique that looks at, say, capitalism, because you depend on capitalism to keep this whole fucking
doctor. I should bring out a main.
Okay, so this is just a full-blown fucking talk. I thought this was more. I thought he was going to go into a deeper analysis. All right, sorry, one sec. I want to see the other Alex Jones video, because apparently he's always right. He called it, or he's back. Maybe he's back. Let's see this.
Journalists also, and it culminated with the censoring of a former president of the country. It was.
I like his source in this. The good source, good source to go to. Trusted source.
So already, police enforcement for that. There's already state's attorneys in every state. Why didn't they go ahead and put him in jail for that if he was breaking a law and he was going against the First Amendment? Either he's breaking the First Amendment and going outside the bounds of the Constitution, or he isn't.
And since when does the press care about grieving parents?
I hate having to do this every stream, but First Amendment. Should just read it out loud, because I think it's important. The First Amendment provides the Congress make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting its free exercise. It protects freedom of speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Again, The purpose of the First Amendment, and it's a good one, is that the government shall pass no laws. The government shall pass no laws that infringe upon the freedom of the press. As in, you have the right under the democracy of the United States to be able to criticize your government, and you never have to worry about government passing a law that takes away a political institution's ability to do so. Does that absolve you of people suing you in civil court for, say, defamation, libel? It does not. It does not absolve you for that. Does it suddenly say that corporations, companies that are publishing houses or publishing companies suddenly get to decide or not decide what or they want to or not publish? It does not. A private company, a magazine stand, a store, a social media company, a YouTube, all of them, they decide at any given time, and they have the right because you sign up for it via a TOS. You sign a contract saying, yes, they have this right to be able to terminate your shit, and they don't even have to give you a reason. I know. It's happened twice to me. So, yeah, I know firsthand what it's like when a company just suddenly says, nope, no more, turns it off. There's no free speech battle for me to be had. I can't go to the United States, spend fucking millions of dollars, try to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. I will lose. Any lawyer worth fucking, half a cent will tell me, you can pay me to do this, but you will not win. There's nothing to be won. You signed this contract.
Only being harassed.
Only with
None of
Seth
them
Rich.
care.
Only with Seth Rich. That you could show in front of John Kennedy Jr. his father's head getting blown off at the drop of a hat. You could do that if you're. Let me explain. Niche social media thing. It's become the town square, and so the town square is like if I go into a park, I get to say whatever I want in the middle of that park, just like I get to say whatever I want in the middle of.
But you don't, right? Like, you realize, Jimmy, if you walked into the middle of the town square and you started making like direct threats to people or fucking groups, or you started just doing the worst possible things in the world, most likely some of those are going to cross the line, right? You couldn't go into a children's park and start screaming about like which kids you're about to abuse, right? In addition to that, if you went into a town square and you started just saying a whole bunch of horrifying shit, like, hey, by the way, I'm Jimmy Dore, I deny the Holocaust and here's the reasons why, then everyone else has the freedom of speech to boo you or to yell at you or to be like, fuck you, motherfucker. That's the other part of the town square that everyone like wants to ignore. It's like, yes, I should have a right to my speech to say the things I see fit. Okay, but people also have a right to say fuck you, in the other direction. That's the part that often, like, even comedians, these snowflake comedians who are like, oh yeah, this guy's trying to cancel me by saying that he didn't like my set, fucking cuck. And it's like, he has a right to say he didn't like your set. Like, what, you're trying to cancel him? You're now going after him for having criticism of you.
Be allowed to say whatever I want in the middle of Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Those are now the town square, and so they have now. It should be treated as a public utility. That's what I'm saying. Just like you can't ban someone from using AT&T can't take away your telephone if they don't like what you're saying on the telephone. Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter say shouldn't be allowed to take away your social media presence because they don't like.
So here's why these two things are slightly different, but some of the points do remain. Now, if you want to talk about the public utility thing, okay, you're talking my jam. I'm on board. But the secondary part, there's a difference between having the ability to contact one person alone at any given time to talk to them about your day or to say terrible things. Sure, you can do that, and you're going to be doing it most likely privately between two parties. Huge difference between that and being able to go into a town square with a very large microphone, megaphone, and sound setup and start saying horrifying and vilifying things. Bigger difference between that still and having a social media platform that you have grown to the size of an empire. Sometimes these people have bigger broadcasting empires than local TV networks. Now, there was new media and new technology that has come up throughout human history in multiple different instances. First, there was the radio, and then after the radio, we got the black and white television. And in both instances, there were organizations, government organizations, that recognized that these devices, this form of communication, could have detrimental impacts if people were to believe mass hysteria. In the case of the War of the Worlds example, this one's really interesting because a lot of people think that the War of the Worlds by Orson Welles was read by Orson Welles, and a lot of people ended up believing that what he was saying was actually happening, that Martians were in real time invading Earth. Some people did believe it. That part is true. There were some people who did believe that when Orson Welles was doing the War of the Worlds, on the radio suddenly it was like, and now they're arriving here, they have their ray guns, oh my god, the horror, they're killing us all, it's happening in real time. There were some people who legitimately believed that. But what blew the whole thing up into a massive scandal was the press, because when when the press reported on the fact that some people believed it, it suddenly became a massive hysteria and mass panic that, holy shit, like, this is terrible. Millions of people thought we were just attacked and invaded by aliens. What happens if the Ruskies were to use our communication devices and then suddenly say something and tell us all to, like, throw all our guns away, or suddenly to eat too much of the really bad food? We'd all do it. There would be mass panic. We should have some kind of regulations over this. There should be some government body that prevents, you know, people from doing full-blown, I don't know, Holocaust denial and other incitements of violence on a massive radio station or stuff like that. So regulations are put in place for those kinds of media. Other kinds of media come up, and then other kind of regulations are put in place onto them. There's a big reason why you don't get to see erect penises on cable news, right? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought, hey, why have I never seen a man suddenly become erect on television? Well, because there's regulations put in place that certain kinds of things should be allowed to be exposed to multiple people on any given day on a widely utilized public network such as television, stuff like that. We have new technology now and new publishing houses, and in this case we have basically what feel like umbrella corporations of a whole bunch of different miniature media empires, and some of these people have massive reach. Massive reach. If you are a Joe Rogan, you have no oversight. There's no editorial team. There's Jamie. Like, fucking, this is a lot of pressure to put on fucking poor old Jamie. Jamie's in the corner there. And meanwhile, it's like, hey, by the way, 11 million people listen to every word fucking Joe Rogan's about to say. If he tells them all right now on his podcast that apparently this vaccine is dangerous and can hurt you, and a percentage of his population or listeners believe that, and that they don't get vaccinated, and they die, well, then he could personally be responsible for hundreds, if not thousands, of deaths. That is risky. There's a risk there, and that risk is going to be put onto the public because these are products, after all. These are media companies, they're media publishing companies. So Spotify is not going to have to worry too much about if there is 100, 200, 500, 1,000 people who all die as a result of this kind of misinformation being spread. They're passing that off, those costs from the company onto the fucking consumer class, and the people who listen to it are the ones who have to incur the damaging effects or detrimental effects from misinformation being spewed out. So there is an argument to be made that yes, even a private company that has to decide whether or not they want people on their organization should in some way try to manage or at least reduce the amount of dangerous speech, hate speech, or big swinging dicks that occur on their thing, if it's something that is going to potentially reach millions, if not more people, right?
What you're saying, if you aren't breaking a law,
by the way, the government is doing it.
And if you are breaking a law, there's the government there to prosecute you for breaking a law. I don't need somebody at Twitter to go and enforce a law. There's already states attorneys. There's already just attorney generals. There's already
we know the government's
suspensions.
You have this platform.
What is this fucking, like, every single episode now? Like, I know Kurt Metzger. We've had our time with Kurt Metzger, but who the fuck are these two? Where it's like, all right, and now cut to the Dream Team, as they can give us some really interesting color commentary on what we should all be believing now.
Form that everybody was drawn into as the new medium of communicating political ideas and dissent. But they also have a lot more control over you this way. They can turn you off. They can hit a switch and you're gone. Elon himself.
Yeah, and this is not as much of a free speech issue as it is a capitalism issue. Why do only a handful of small companies control the entirety of the internet? That's the problem here. It's never the focus from all the fucking bozo left. The bozo left are always like, more free speech, but they censored this guy and they don't allow this guy, but I like this guy, so he's got speech. It's the speech I like. I like speech. My kind of speech. So that's the only speech I care about. That's the only analysis you're going to get. Maybe the bigger problem here is the fact that, like, most industries are dominated by a small amount of companies, you know? It doesn't matter if it's food. Food is what, 11 companies and corporations control the majority of the food that we all consume. Media, 6. Internet, 5. Airlines, 5, maybe 4 now. Beer, 2. Like, that seems to be a problem with every single industry, no matter where you look. No one's talking about the free speech of suddenly a beer company wants to drop a line. They're like, oh, that sucks, we lost a beer. It's not like, but we lost speech. That beer company no longer produces my favorite brew. That is a loss of speech. It's like, well, that one wasn't profitable and not enough people bought it, and that multinational corporation just doesn't want to produce it anymore. Yeah, that sucks. It kind of seems like there's more to this too, you know? Argonian Bum, thank you for the tier 1. And also, everyone, go subscribe and follow Argonian Bum. Deeply appreciate it.
So I'll take it because it's Facebook. Oh, by the way, I should have did this story today. Twitter, what's it called? TikTok suspended us. They don't tell you why.
Yeah, it sucks. Again, happened to me too. But, like, you are giving them all the power. every single person who keeps doing this thing where they try to reframe it as like, we have to get them to understand they should allow all of the speeches, all of them. Don't let any of the speeches be left alone. They shouldn't take away this speeches, that speeches. Like, you could play this game all day. Honestly, you could be like, yeah, it really sucks when this person got knocked off. This person's great. That person's bad. This person's good. But none of that is going to, like, you don't ever have any more control through this. You don't ever get to suddenly be the one in power, unless of course an Elon Musk comes along and he happens to be super far right and fashy and agree with just wanting Nazis and pedophiles on the platform. Then okay, yeah, you won a victory there. Yeah, that one is the true free speech, because it's got all the Nazis and the pedophiles. That's the best one.
They can't just go, I don't like your business, so that's a private company, but they have to, they're a public utility. Go ahead.
Exactly. And if you use the phone to harass somebody and you get taken to court and you lose, you have to pay whatever the price is for losing that lawsuit, but they don't turn your phone off for life.
That's right.
Right? Once you pay your debt to whoever you owe it to, you get to talk on the phone again. Right? So you don't have permanent bans.
Right. Whenever you bring this up to liberals, all of a sudden they become instant libertarians. All of a sudden they believe in the sanctity of private corporations to run their business any way they want, because they've done polling on this, and they are the most pro-censorship sector of society, which, as Keaton says, they don't want to admit that in the end they support that. That's what's so terrifying.
So it's the liberals that run all these tech companies, and it was also the liberals who, while running a lot of these tech companies, apparently were giving a lot more leeway to the right-wingers. It seems like the right-wingers were actually getting a lot more of, when we look at the actual statistics and data, they were getting more exceptions to the rule. Their speech was being silenced less than people on the left and liberals themselves. So again, I don't think that's 100% just that one team is super censorious. It's like, oh yeah, well, libertarians, they want everything. I mean, libertarians just want freedom for everybody, right? You know, except for people who happen to disagree with us. We don't want freedom for them. When I give sub is regular price. When I club manage my sub, it's cheaper, confusing. I blame Twitch. You know, if you ever want to give subs, come to the Serfs.tv, because the money doesn't go to Jeffrey Bezos and all that kind of stuff. I got to sign off early everyone today, because I have to go to a meeting in about 10 minutes, unfortunately. But if you miss any of the stream, you can rewind it, and it's available for all of you on the Twitch streaming platform, the Booby platform, where we love boobs and we welcome boobs, and also the stream where we love boobs and welcome boobs. Also cocks are awesome, boobs are awesome. It's all amazing. Asses too, you know. That's going to be our new motto around these parts. We're pro boob, pro ass, and pro titties and pro cock, and if you don't want to enjoy any of those, we're also pro that. We're pro if you want it or you don't want it, or you love it or you don't love it. But just come on down, everybody. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Dual stream, Leftist Mafia, all the stuff you love. Please thank the mods. Mods keep us safe. Thank you very much to everybody who has been subbing and doing all this stuff. Oof, I think I missed a couple subs. Let me see if I can quickly get them before the automatic raid counter happens. Argonian Bum, thank you very much. Jujitsu Guy 1994, thank you very, very much. Indignity Jones, thank you for the 100 biddies. Shocked but not that shocked. And Anonymous, thank you again for gifting a tier 1 sub. I will see all of you tomorrow. Regular stream, regular time. 2 streams actually. More bonus content. Awesome stuff. See you tomorrow. Love you all. You're valid. Bye.